Clerk. Thank you for being here this evening. Sorry for, we had a lot to discuss in closed session, so I'm glad you hung around and waited for us. But there is no closed session action to report out. We need to reestablish our quorum.
Mr. Jensen?
Present.
Dr. Moore? Present. Mrs. Storley? Here. Mr. Webb?
Present.
Mr. Messina?
Here.
And student board member? Present.
We'll now rise to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I would like to ask Captain Diaz to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay, right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get approval of the agenda, please?
Move to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting.
Second. Moved by Mr. Jensen, seconded by Mr. Webb. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Approval of minutes from the regular meeting on November 2nd.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Storley, seconded by Mr. Webb. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. And student board member?
Aye.
And now the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting on November
Move
16th.
to approve the meetings of the November 16th regular meeting.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Jensen, seconded by Dr. Moore. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well. Next item is recognitions by the board. I want to call Mark Crawford.
Good evening, Superintendent and Governing Board. I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to recognize the outstanding and hardworking students, directors, coaches, and parents that all worked very hard and helped make up the entire Santa Clarita marching band community as a whole. And specifically, tonight, we want to recognize 3 award-winning bands that this year brought home the Southern California School Band and Orchestra Association championships for marching band in their respective divisions. That's right, our district boasts 3 champions in Southern California. This is an incredible feat, maybe one never completed before. So first of our bands that we would like to recognize tonight is Castaic High School. Can we just have them come right up front? Could you come right up front? Mr. Ken, Mr. Ken, you're going to talk in minutes. Come on up, guys. You can line up right here. The Castaic High School Marching Band won Division 1A championship in their first year with all grades and its first graduating class. So to talk about this incredible group and introduce some of these fine students, here's the director, Mr. Eugene Kim.
Hi, thanks for having us. I'd like to introduce some of our students. Over to the right, we have Joshua Guzman, our drum major. Our percussion captain. Our section leader. Chloe Coffey, a band council member. Olivia Upton, color guard captain. Vicky Pollock, also percussion captain. And Ida Charleswell, color guard captain. We had a great year. This is my first year at Castaic High School, and these students worked very, very hard. And this is their second year competing. And I'm very proud of their hard work. And the last 5 competitions, they placed first. And they worked super hard to earn this gold medal. So we're very proud of them, and we're very thankful to be here. Thank you.
We're going to have the members of our governing board come down, present you with certificates, and then ask that you would share the additional certificates with the members of your team.
I know.
You need to make 2 or 3 rows. Go ahead. You need to make 2 or 3 rows.
Congratulations once again. You board members don't go anywhere. 2 more bands to be recognized. Next up, winning the Division IIA championship is Valencia High School. And Valencia High School is under the direction of Kelvin Flores. And I believe, Kelvin, if I'm right, this is your first graduating class to see him come through. And so they come through and they award him with the championship. Great job, guys. And I have a special place in my heart for Kelvin because he did his student teaching while I was at West Ranch. So congratulations to Valencia High School Marching Band.
Thanks for having us, and thank you for the recognition. We are so proud and honored to represent Santa Clarita so proudly. Let me introduce some of our student leaders here. We have our 2 drum majors, Adani and Abby. Our color guard captains, Cindy and Caitlin. And our percussion captains, we have Alex and Keaton. So this was a collaborative effort between parents, administration, the support, the community, educators and teachers and staff members, and we're just so thrilled to again proudly represent our valley. I do have a call to action. I'm going to take this moment to just say that we are so thankful. Imagine what we can do if we were to really invest in music education in our district. Currently, we don't have a budget in our district for music, and I want to just have you consider that in the future. How many more kids can we reach if we were to have something like that? We're so proud to be here. Thank you so much for the great honor.
I would also like to just further share with you that Mr. Flores was a student with Mr. Bailey at Hart High School. So again, it's just so exciting to see this. And Anthony, I'm not going to sing George, okay? But but it's just so exciting to see this continuation of band through all our high schools. So thank you for your help.
And while Mr. Webb wouldn't say how old Anthony is, maybe I will. No, just joking, Anthony. Because our final band to recognize tonight is Anthony and I go. While I got to see Kelvin begin his career, Anthony started his career many years ago while I was at Hart, because it would also age me, so I will not say. However, finally tonight, we want to recognize the Division 4A champion Hart High School Marching Band. And Hart High School is under the direction of the aforenamed Mr. Anthony Bailey. And Anthony, if I'm counting correctly, this is the 15th championship for Hart High School. Congratulations on the 15th. And I also believe 15 championships is the most of any high school in Southern California. All right, congratulations. Woo!
Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to recognize all the amazing kids in this district and what we accomplished. We have 6 divisions in marching band, and to represent 3 of those has been totally phenomenal. And every student has worked so hard. And even coming back from the pandemic, we talk about it a lot, but this year, the last couple of years have been extra hard, and we've done a lot of great things in order to have this accomplishment. In front of me here, I have Riley Green and Izzy Schreck, our drum majors. We have Alex Barker on the end over here. Chris Brown, percussion. We have Beck Forgrave. Max Garcia. Let's see, Robert Grunwick. Kyle Martinez. Abel couldn't be with us today, but he's one of our percussion section leaders. We have Cameron Otteson. Victor Hio. I want to just take a moment to really thank all of our administration and our support from our district. And one of the things that it's remarkable, and I keep telling these kids that we have had such tremendous success with our music programs in this district. For us to accomplish 15 has been, truly was one of the goals. And one of the things I'm asked all the time, like, how do you win? How do you win? How do you win? It's these guys every single time. Just hard kids, leaders like this that are willing to show up every day and allow me to do the most phenomenal job, and that's make music every single day. I wake up every morning making band and making strong leaders like this. So I thank you guys so much for a tremendous year. This would never have happened without you. And I just want to make one point that we competed in 4A, but we competed 2 divisions down from our normal division in size. So we competed against schools that were almost twice our size, and were able to beat almost every group above us in the divisions in 5 and 6A. So amazing job, and I'll go along saying what Kelvin said is we would be able to do even more, and hopefully that we can see and appreciate our community supporting some of the propositions that went forward, and we hope that we can just see that money get directly into the classroom. It's what we're hoping. So congratulations, Hart.
Well, the good news that we have here is that our celebrations, our honoring of individuals is not quite done. So this past year, Hart District launched a new strategic plan that included the establishment of 4 new core values for the Hart District. Those values include courage, creativity, caring, and community. The 4 descriptors are what we call aspirational values, meaning our governing board wants to set them aside as character traits that we should all aspire to. One way we've chosen to highlight these values is through the presentation of our One Hart Award. The award itself is a medallion that is presented to a student, a staff member, or a member of our community who we believe exemplifies one or more of our core values of courage, creativity, caring, and community. By honoring someone with this award, we are in effect saying to our students, be like this person. Tonight, Ms. Linda Storley will present a One Hart Award to a special member of our community.
This past year, we created a clear direction for our district. We had a direction. It's more clear. We are 18 different school communities with one heart. Our fundamental purpose is to ensure every student opportunity ready. To this purpose, we created an award that combined our goals. Today, I have not given one of these, to date, I have not given one of these awards. So I decided to award it to a young man that I enjoyed watching grow up. Not that he's that young, but I'm that old. A laugh? Okay, thank you. I was asked several years ago by some city folks and some law enforcement people what I thought of Justin Diaz being named captain of Santa Clarita Station. Without hesitation, I said yes. Justin combines all of our goals in his home life as well as being captain. I could not be more proud of my neighbor and friend who's put up with me for 18 years. He enables everything that we wanted to do with our award and our new direction, plus he keeps us safe, and that's very important. Captain Diaz.
Well, let me start by saying you're a wonderful neighbor on the record here. So where do I start? Thank you so much. So thank you for having me tonight. Let me first start by thanking Mike, your leadership over the last few years has been great. You know, I think we started about the same time, and boy, we started, you know, it was pretty interesting time to start, right? COVID and everything else that came along with it. The board, governing board, thank you guys. I think I formed a friendship and a personal working relationship with all of you. And you guys have been great mentors and a great working relationship. And then Linda, friendship, neighbor, working relationship, mentorship, thank you so much. You and Dennis have been great to me and my family, and you helped me along learn this process, which is not an easy process over the last few years. So speaking of the last few years, I just touched upon it. You know, the last few years, we think of COVID, and it was a pretty interesting time, right? We kind of figured out, we had to figure out what to do, how to do it, and then we kind of evolved into school security, and all these just different things are happening, and I think we did pretty good, right? There's always room for improvement, but I think we got through it pretty well. You know, the collaboration, you hear the words collaboration and partnership all the time, they're overused a lot, but I can tell you that for us, what our station's doing with the board and Mike, the collaboration and the partnership is unprecedented. I know that we're on the phone or email or meeting or training or whatever, probably a few times a week, if not more, and it's just worked. And you know, if you really think about it, although we're not perfect and we can always improve, it's probably arguably a model for, you know, anywhere in LA County, if not the country or the state. So, you know, 7 school resource deputies and a sergeant, and at our schools, and it works. Somehow we make it work. So anyway, it's an absolute pleasure and an honor. I love it. And, oh, you know, I actually have a special place in the office. I collect these coins. You know I love these. Oh, you don't know that, but now you know that. So anyway, I'm very honored, very grateful to get this. This is wonderful, and I really appreciate it. And on behalf of the station, thank you so much.
Can we get a picture of the two of your friends here?
Oh, one more. Wait, hold on. I'm going to turn to the other side. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to our board member reports. And we can start with Dr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Messina. And good evening, everyone. Congratulations, Captain Diaz. Very, very well deserved. Very well deserved. A few things that I have updates on. One, I just wanted to say congratulations again to Golden Valley, the football team. I know it didn't come out as we were hoping, but it was a very good game, and I'm glad that I was able to be there as we were trying to win that game. Also, last week, I was at the California School Boards Association Delegate Assembly meeting, and during that meeting, that is a meeting of all of the delegate assembly members from across the state. We have elected representatives at the state level for CSBA, and we are really focusing on moving the work of school boards forward. One of the focuses has been looking at 4 pillars of improving education for our students. And I have the pleasure of serving on the committee that's focusing on improving conditions for learning. And so as we continue to look at opportunities to do that, I'll be bringing forward the recommendations from CSBA. And also to make sure that our board is ready for next year. CSBA will be in San Francisco next year, and hope that we will have a good turnout at the event next year. I was also able to attend the Student Communications Council meeting this past Monday, and they're just an amazing group of young people doing amazing things and really thinking beyond what sometimes our older minds might see as opportunities for just thinking out of the box. So I want to thank them for allowing me to be there. Thank you, Mr. Coleman, for opening up that invitation. They were working on areas looking at how can we make sure that our campuses are really focused on inclusivity and make sure that all students feel welcome. They were looking at safety and mental health and thinking about ways in which they can have input into what messages students receive related to mental health. And I'm, again, just very proud of the work that they are doing, very proud of our future and our students. And then with Captain Diaz being here, I wanted to make sure that I mentioned this weekend is the Santa Clarita International Film Festival. And Captain Diaz and I will be a part of a panel at the film festival that is speaking about the fentanyl crisis. And so I want to invite everyone who is interested to join us. That will be on Sunday, but to look at many of the films that will be shared at the film festival this weekend. And Mr. Encina, that's my report.
Thank you. Mr. Webb.
Thank you, Mr. President. District Cabinet, those of you in the audience, teachers, students, and community members. I want to have my board report focus on what is going on with the arts in our school. You heard when our bands were featured that there is a need for more continuous funding with the arts. We know that Proposition 28 was approved by the voters of California. So we're excited to see where that will go. But in our schools, we have some phenomenal programs. A few that I'd like to mention. I had the pleasure last November 17th, right before Thanksgiving break, to attend the Addams Family Theater production at Castaic High School. Excellent. It was the first time they had sold the house out. And it was so exciting to see that beautiful theater with this wonderful production. I also want to give a hats off to the administration. They invited the students from Castaic Middle School to come and attend the production for free. So it was really exciting to see the kids get very, very excited to come up there and be a part of that high school experience. In addition, our music right now at Golden Valley, there's a winter concert taking place. And so I just want to let everyone know up there that we are supporting them. Wish we could be there, but we have to be here. And then also recognizing our bands, Castaic, Valencia, and Hart, who are recognized tonight in all of their hard work and dedication. In the area of video production, the recent Student Television Network National Video Challenge, 2 of our schools placed. Castaic High School earned a first place in TV commercial, and West Ranch High School earned 3rd place in music video. So again, whether it's digital, whether it's traditional performing arts, we have a lot to be proud of with our students. Danny, I'm sure, can testify to this, but students are studying for their finals. Something that I was able to attend briefly last night at Saugus High School. For their freshmen, they did something called the Cocoa and Cram. It was to teach all of the 9th graders how to study for finals. So they took them into the X building at Saugus High School, showed them how to study, gave them hot cocoa, and it was just, my son actually wanted to attend, which is, that's something very powerful. So it was just really neat to see that they did that. And so with all the students, with their support from their teachers, their classified staff, and all the other staff members who support them, I wish you the best. I know that it's a stressful time, but it is one that you can look back on and understand where it fits into your high school career, and that is my report.
Thank you, Mr. Messina. First, I'd like to welcome everyone. I hope you all had a great fall break and Thanksgiving. This past month, we saw our sports teams, and when you go 3rd in the line, they've kind of taken some of the celebratory things and already spoke about them. But we almost got where we wanted to be, but there's always next year. We did do very well. Our bands and marching teams have proven themselves noteworthy. I'd like us to remember that today is December the 7th. As a history teacher, it's a day that we learn not so much the date, but what was behind it, what happened after, and what it meant to us. On a personal note, this last month, after 18 years of petitioning, speaking, writing, my home is now in the city limits. My home didn't move, the city limit line moved. I thank the city of Santa Clarita. I hope the next few weeks allows us to look forward to a new year and success for our students. And again, I'd like to thank Captain Diaz for being here, for making our city and our school district a safe place to be And I do absolutely believe that the model that we have with our sheriff's department, which is also the police department for the city of Santa Clarita, a model for the rest of the country. I think having our resource officers on the campuses, which I think I tried to push 35 years ago, is accomplished, and I do know it makes a difference to students who have their first experience with a resource officer and not getting a ticket like my first experience. Thank you, Mr. Messina.
Mr. Jensen, can we get the score?
Welcome everyone tonight. It's good to be here. First of all, I wanted to recognize, as Linda said, Pearl Harbor Day today, December 7th. I wanted to express my gratitude for those that have served our country to preserve our liberties and freedoms and rights. I have an uncle actually who's about 15 years older than my father, who served in the U.S. Navy during World War II, and he was at Pearl Harbor when it was bombed on December 7th, and I received a text message from my dad today talking about that situation. So I'm grateful for folks like my uncle who served in the U.S. Navy during World War II, and for all of our war veterans who served to protect our liberties and our freedoms. This first semester is winding down, not too many days left. I was able to attend a basketball game last night between Hart and Saugus over at Hart High School. Saw both the boys and girls teams participate, which was enjoyable to do. It's been good for me to interact with a lot of students and parents and community members and teachers and staff over the last couple of weeks. I appreciate that opportunity. I wanted to mention a few things that have been going on in the district. Obviously, we've talked about the bands tonight from Castaic, Valencia, and Hart, CIF champions in the 1A, 2A, and 4A division. Terrific music programs in all of our schools, and I'm grateful for the wonderful leadership we have amongst our teachers and staff in that regard. In November, there was a robotics competition over at Valencia High School. Lego robotics. It was a qualifier competition. 4 of our schools competed in that. Also in November, Rancho Pico held Kindness Week. And the motto or the slogan was, in a world where you can be anything, be kind. And they also said, at that week, they said, be the I in kind. I thought that was really good. And then lastly, wanted to mention that our wellness department held a parent forum at the end of November, 1st of December. November 29th was for English speakers, and December 1st was for Spanish speakers. It was a Zoom event. Grateful for the wellness department and what they're doing with parents in our district. So it's been a good first semester. It's winding down, but more good things to come.
Great. I want to build a little bit on what Mrs. Storley said. Today is the anniversary of the bombing of Pearl Harbor. The Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor began at 7:55 that morning. The entire attack took only 1 hour and 15 minutes. In that attack, we lost over 2,400 service members. Over 1,100 were wounded. And we had many civilian casualties as well, for a total of about 3,600 Americans that were killed or hurt that day. And these are things that we should never, ever, ever forget in this country. And remember that these things go on, and we need to be ever vigilant in keeping ourselves safe. Do something a little odd here, maybe not too odd. But Jamie Puerta contacted me last week. Some of you may know him. His son died of a fentanyl poisoning. And Jamie said that he had something similar to Narcan that he wanted to give to the district. Now, legally or technically, we have to accept this, and we can't do that tonight. But I wanted to give Jamie a minute of my time. He's so thankful for what we're doing in the district. And I can't get him off the phone with me, so I'll let him come in here and give him a minute just to say thank you.
I'll try not to get emotional like I usually do when I talk about my son. This is my son, Daniel Joseph Puerta Johnson. He's a student at Saugus High School. He passed away on April the 6th of 2020. Good to see you, Dr. KHTS. I know you already. Wonderful. Thank you for all you do. My son Daniel died due to fentanyl poisoning, and what most people need to understand is that the fentanyl crises that we are suffering here, not only in our school district, but throughout California and throughout the nation, most people don't really understand the crises because most parents feel like it can never happen to their families due to the stigma of addiction and overdose. But fentanyl has changed the drug landscape like no other drug has before in the history of the United States, more so than opium at the turn of the 19th century, more so than heroin in the 60s and 70s, more so than crack cocaine in the 80s, more so than the opioids in the 2000s. The reason why we are being affected so badly by this scourge is that due to the accessibility of these drugs, first and foremost, we have a lot of children, unfortunately, whether you like it or not, they're going to want to experiment. Kids are going to experiment. That's just a natural, it's just natural that kids are going to want to experiment. Or they're going to want to either self-medicate due to emotional trauma or physical trauma. And they're going to reach out and, there was a study done with these kids between the ages of 11 and 17, and they were asked, who is your major influence in your lives? Your parents, your teachers, or your friends? I think we all know what the answer is, teachers, right? It's your friends. So you have 14-year-olds who are going under peer pressure. They go to parties. Somebody offers them what they think is a pharmaceutical grade Percocet, oxycodone, Oxycontin, or Valium, when in all reality, it's a counterfeit pill. Because 100% of the pills that are found on social media apps like Snapchat, like Instagram, they are fake. 100% of them are fake. And our kids are reaching out, or drug dealers are reaching out to them, saying, I got something that's going to make you feel better, and they'll deliver it to the door.
Jimmy, I can't.
I know, I'm going to stop right now, but,
Yeah.
So, Dr. Moore, I will see you on Sunday on the panel. I will be on that panel as well, and I don't want any more deaths to happen in this school district. My organization, Void, stopthevoid.org, that is my organization. I am the president and the founder of it. Again, I live here in Santa Clarita. I bought enough naloxone for all of your schools in the William S. Hart School District.
So I appreciate that. He can leave it with us, but we have to accept it. Technically, we have to accept it in the meeting, correct?
So, just so you know what...
He's donating these to us, and we have to accept it at a meeting.
Yes, your acceptance when you receive a gift, you do as part of the thing.
Okay.
Or the steps.
So what I would like to do is I would like to gift you. This doesn't cost you anything. This is... I don't want any kids to die. And all the schools should have this on hand. Because if you have this on hand, you're going to revert an opioid crisis. I won't take any more of your time. Thank you for the time. And Mr. Messina, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Judy, thank you for the awareness and all the work you're doing and working with Captain Diaz back there on this as well. I appreciate it very much. These devices and this stuff is becoming harder and harder to get, so we very much appreciate what he's doing for us. All right, student board member, your turn.
Hi. Is it okay? Hello. Okay, so sorry. I wanted to start off by discussing many ASBs school-wide are trying to focus on the One Hart, like idea concept, and we're trying to put that into motion. A couple of ways that we have been doing this are we're seeing district-wide events hosted at individual schools. One example of that being the One Hart, One Den hosted by Golden Valley for our playoffs game, as well as Valencia High School hosted all seniors from all districts bonding event where they watched How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Furthermore, I did want to talk about the SCC meeting, the Student Communications Council meeting that we attended last Monday. It was, Dr. Moore was there as well. We talked specifically about the START program, which is a program to help with violence and mental health amongst teenagers. The last thing that I really wanted to focus on is I wanted to remind the audience, the board, a couple of facts about the fentanyl crisis. Students are scared. Students are fearful, and I think right now, especially during the holidays, where we're seeing more family connection, we're seeing the end of the semester with finals, kids are looking for an out. The more that you talk, communicate, and discuss these issues, share these facts with your children, the more likely they are to talk to you, and the less likely they are to look towards alternative ways to feel happy or get that emotion back. Fentanyl is 50 times stronger than heroin and 100 times stronger than morphine. It's marketed, as stated before, in other products, and it's laced in there. Students don't know what they are taking when they're getting drugs or even alcohol sometimes off of drug dealers from Snapchat or Instagram. I urge, especially now, although it's not the most positive conversation to have during the holidays, I urge you guys to talk and start those discussions and make sure that you know what your kids are doing. That's all for me.
Very good. Mr. Coleman, you have an item, and also, we still have that fentanyl documentary up on the website, do we not?
Yes.
Very good, okay.
You'll be the teacher will write it. Okay. We can keep it. I wanted to personally, as superintendent, say thank you for the amazing gift to the district, and thankfully right now we are equipped at all of our school sites, but this is going to certainly help us moving forward to make sure that we can expand the availability of those important resources. A brief shift. I just wanted to end on a positive note, if I could. This is an important discussion, but wanted to share with you that as part of one of the as the guidance that came from our plan that we put together recently, there was a talk of a promotional video. Our strategic plan talked about creating a promotional video talking about the Hart District. And so Dr. Colin Nielsen and Mr. Mark Crawford presented the idea of creating a short promotional video to highlight the Hart District at virtual job fairs. Ms. Debbie Dunn worked with our local SCV TV, which offers free services to its partners in the Santa Clarita Public Television Authority, and our school video advisors provided us with short video clips of our students and schools in a variety of activities, such as classroom instruction, athletics, performing arts, extracurricular clubs, activities, rallies, etc. Mr. Mark Crawford performed the narration, and SCV TV put the pieces together into a professional-looking promotional video that we would like to share with you this evening. This is posted on the homepage of our website, and we encourage, since all of us have a goal of encouraging people to come and be part of the Hart District family, quality people, we encourage you to use this resource, and Ms. Dunn, ask you to play that now.
The William S. Hart Union High School District is an exemplary district located in Santa Clarita, California, a community nestled in North Los Angeles County. The Hart District, rated as one of the top secondary districts in the state of California, strives to make a difference in the lives of our diverse student body by instilling a sense of community, courage, creativity, and character. We do this by working together to offer high-performing academic programs, championship athletic teams, award-winning performing arts, and a robust career and technical education program. For our teachers and staff, we offer competitive salaries, a great benefits package, and a chance to work with our amazing students. Being in Santa Clarita offers the opportunity to be just minutes from it all. The beach, mountains, desert, close to the excitement of Los Angeles, all while living in a beautiful and safe community. So we invite you to meet with us and think about joining the William S. Hart District family, where we believe in one heart, every student, opportunity ready.
Very nice.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move to our Hart District Teachers Association, HDTA President, John Minkus.
Good evening, school board, student member and president, Mr. Messina, superintendent, staff. Well, happy to be here tonight. I don't know if you can hear me much better. I first want to express my sincere condolences to members of the administrative staff here tonight who have recently suffered the loss of a family member. And unfortunately, I too have experienced such loss since our last meeting. So my best wishes go out to all families. Tonight, my goal is to encourage the Board of Education to support a position that will lend itself to a positive conclusion to the current negotiation process. To support an agreement that recognizes the hard work and dynamic effort put forth by your certificated staff. To support a position that shows that this board is committed to the continued success and excellence of the Hart District. To support a position that will help maintain and continue our well-deserved status as a destination school district, one in which so many entrust our staff with their students. To support a position that results in the treatment and compensation of its staff commensurate with the well-documented results. In addressing this most urgent matter, I will share a few of the many facts that validate HDTA's desired outcomes to this arduous and important task. Simply put, we ask you to work in the best interest of our students and appropriately provide for a staff that continues to deliver an exemplary medium of an educational experience and hence exceptional student outcomes. So in short, I will ask you to look at a staff that is used by home builders to tout the desirability of our district and community. If you drive over Plum Canyon, you see signs such as the K&B sign and the Toll Brothers touting award-winning schools. A staff that is witnessed year after year after year after year after year of budgets that show massive ending balances. A staff that had to fight a year-long battle for a 4% raise, only to see the top administrators be rewarded with new titles and thus much greater compensation than all others. A staff that is repeatedly promised to work with the district officials in difficult financial times, hence 2009 and 10 after the 2008, where we took pay cuts. And in an effort to avoid layoffs and assure for our students the continued excellence in teaching they deserve and have come to expect. A staff that has endured through 3 of the previous 6 years in which we saw no salary increase, 0%. So, as we in the past have rhetorically asked, if not now, when? I say to you, governing board members, now is the time to show your quantifiable support of our membership. Thank you.
Next is the California School Employee Association, CSEA, Chapter 349 President, Shannon Stennis.
Good evening, President Messina, board members, Superintendent Coleman, cabinet, and guests. As we approach the holidays, I would like to ask that we all reflect on those that may not have the same access to fiscal and medical resources, and that we continue to keep an open mind and supportive stance during our collaboration. As such, I'd like to thank the district and CSEA for meeting December 2nd to continue negotiations. While the district offered a salary increase and proposed language to certain clauses and on contract, CSEA reflected back a proposal requesting additional vacation days, health and welfare increase, along with the county proposal to language and salary. CSEA looks forward to meeting again on December 15th in anticipation to promising results. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll move into a public comment. Oh, no, I'm sorry. School site report, West Branch High School.
Thank you very much. Board members, appreciate you having us tonight. Mr. Messina, President Messina, Superintendent Coleman, cabinet members, community members, thank you so much for having West Ranch High School here. We're excited to talk about the great things that are going on at West Ranch High School. As a new principal, I'm very thankful for the opportunity to be here tonight. And to start off with some background information, our demographics are there. As of October 3rd, we had 1,911 students enrolled at our school, and then I provided a little bit of a demographic breakdown so you can see the demographic makeup of our student body. Tonight we're talking about Focus Area 3, Access and Equity. As you heard some clapping, we have some staff here that are amazing. What I've learned so much about West Ranch is the students and staff and the parents in our community are really a dedicated staff. You got students who work very hard to achieve amazing things, and community members that are very involved and supportive of the school. Tonight we're talking about 3 areas. 3.1, which is going to be looking at our rigorous course of study. We have 23 AP courses. We have over 1,000 students enrolled in our AP courses. So when we looked at it, we did an audit of all of our AP classes. And when we break down the data, it is very optimistic. Over 1,000 students out of that 1,900 students are in at least one AP class. We have multiple students who are taking multiple AP exams, which can be very daunting. But as you see the amount of students taking the classes, then you look at the number of exams taken. Over 1,600 exams were taken last year, and the results are even more promising. All of our demographic groups are well above the minimum passing score of 3, which is incredible. And in order to give you a little bit more information about this, I brought one of our students who is also in West Ranch TV. Well, actually, both students that are with us tonight are in West Ranch TV, and they are anchors, and they're amazing. So to start off, to talk about the AP program, her experience, Natalie Cross.
So hi everyone, my name is Natalie. I'm a senior at West Ranch High School. I've taken AP classes throughout my time at West Ranch. I'm currently taking 3 AP classes at West Ranch as a senior. So I also have Tourette syndrome, which is a neurological disorder that causes involuntary movements and sounds called tics. So basically it just means my brain decides that I'm going to flail my arms at random moments, and it, even when I don't want to. So this has been a significant academic challenge for me. I mean, you can imagine what that must be like within a high school classroom when you're supposed to be quiet and listening to your teacher. So I'm focusing on not ticking, and I'm not being focused on my teacher's lectures. But I've been super grateful for the staff at West Ranch and the support I've received. I have a 504 program, 504, which allows me to have accommodations so I can be successful even in an AP class. It's a rigorous course, it's moving at a fast pace. So having those accommodations and having the support of the staff has been super helpful in me being successful, and I'm super grateful for that. So yeah.
Thank you, Natalie, and I think it's important to point out that she also represents courage, which is one of our strategic focuses. Next is 3.2, which is ensuring that all students have equitable access to our extracurriculars. And as you can see, when we also break down the data for the number of students participating in our extracurriculars, which are try to list as many of them as possible up there, we have over 1,000 students also participating in our extracurriculars. So students really are involved in school, which we know the more that they're involved, the greater success that they have. And I am excited to be able to have Siddharth Sudan with us tonight, and he's going to share a little bit about extracurriculars. It is the president, Siddharth Sudan.
Thank you. So hi, my name is Siddharth. I'm a senior at West Ranch. I'm actually a part of 3 of these
extracurriculars, ASB, West Ranch TV, and I'm on our basketball team. Being a part of these extracurriculars has really given me the opportunity to grow as a person and really discover these character traits and personality traits that really will help me prepare for my future and my future career. So within all these programs, I've learned really well to collaborate, and more importantly, I've learned how important it is to be an active member of your community, and because West Ranch is such an amazing community, I'm an active member of our community, and because of this, I think that I'll be an active member of the future. So, thank you.
And finally, for 3.4, expanding college and career preparation, one of our teachers, Tammy Kornfeld, is going to talk about our career pathways and our finance courses.
Great. All right. First, I'd like to thank Mr. Fisher for letting me join this presentation to speak about the amazing arts programs at West Ranch. I'd like to use our time to talk to highlight the arts at West Ranch. The West Ranch helped to achieve its equity and access goals by described in 3.4 of the strategic plan, which is to expand college and career preparation, increase career path completion, and focus these efforts to reach all students. To adequately meet the obligations of a stellar high school education, an arts department must provide a diverse menu of course offerings. Why? Because a student may not know they have a passion or a gift for any particular medium until they have it in their hands, be that a trumpet or a paintbrush or clay, all of which are taught at our school by award-winning programs. Our department gives each student an opportunity to discover a sleeping passion that could turn into a career. When they do find that passion, they find themselves being taught by teachers who are highly qualified art instructors who are credentialed in their art content area, teachers with industry and commercial experience that guide these students down the right path to turn that passion into a career if they so choose. One of our long-term goals is to expand our pathway offerings, but at this time the Fine Arts Pathways department offers two pathways, music technology and media photo. By the time they graduate, completers of either of these programs are commercially viable to either immediately launch their careers or expand their skills by enrolling in higher education. Whether or not one of our art students wish to make their creative juices a center of their future career, our AP classes provide them with the opportunity to begin that college career. For the last 2 years, both of our AP Art Design and AP Music Theory classes have had a 100% pass rate, and AP Art History has had over a 90% pass rate, which far surpassed the state and national averages. One of the founding principles of West Ranch was that any student, regardless of previous grades or courses, could take an AP class. While that is one important element to improving equity and access at the high school, equity and access needs to be more. It also needs to involve access to award-winning comprehensive programs and teachers that teach not just a craft, but industry viability. West Ranch High School's art department provides that education. Thank you for your time, and in conclusion, I warmly invite all of you to visit West Ranch and see the beautiful art that our students are creating.
As you can see, there was a reason why they were invited. They spoke so eloquently as I struggle with words tonight. So is there any questions?
Questions or comments?
Oh, yes.
First of all, I've known Mr. Fisher for a very long time, and so I was teasing him that when he came up here. But I just wanted to say, so excited. You know, as you know, I taught at West Ranch, so this is a school that's very important to me. And I think that it's just so exciting to see the continuation of what, you know, still relationships, rigor and relevance that was always a part of when the school was founded. And I'm just really just so happy to see, you know, things continue the way it is. So thank you very much for taking care of my home, because it will always have a very special place to me.
Thank you.
Dr. Moore. Oh, sorry.
Okay. I too have known Mr. Fisher a very long time, since he was at Golden Valley High School. And I'm just very excited that he's at West Ranch and still doing the amazing work that he has always done, from when I knew him when he was an assistant principal and athletic director way back then there. And I thank you.
Teacher of your daughter.
And teacher for my daughter, because you were a huge influence on her future, so thank you. And Natalie and Sadar, thank you both very much. Ms. Fisher too. Sorry. Thank you both so very, very much for your words and speaking. As I saw them as we were coming downstairs, I went by quickly, but I didn't recognize quick enough that I know you guys. And, and I wanted just to say thank you so much for hosting me. We had a wonderful, wonderful interview, and it's great to see all the amazing things that you are doing at West Ranch and will do in the future. Ms. Krantz, it's good to see you too. And sorry, I didn't know I knew your parents until they told me after that I knew, but I know them. Good to see you guys. Thank you. Wonderful comments tonight.
Really nice presentation. I appreciate it. I don't know him as well as you guys do, but I did have a student who were at a community setting, and they said they went to West Ranch, and they started going on and on about how much they loved the principal. And it took me a second to...
Might have been talking about Mark.
No. I asked.
All right. Just making sure.
No, they knew exactly who they were talking about, and seriously, they went on for like quite a while on how wonderfully you're doing and how much they appreciate you being there and the culture of the school. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Robert, former varsity football coach at Golden Valley High School. Could you call a play for us and send it in to me?
We probably go trips right, 21 blast.
There you go. That's great.
I have no idea.
Nice presentation. Great job. Natalie, nice presentation. Thank you. Well spoken. And Sadar, I have a question for you. You're on the basketball team, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
I understand you guys have a really good team this year.
Yeah.
Ranked like in the top 10 in the CIF and the top 10 in the state, is that correct?
Yeah, so right now we're number 3 in the state and number 23 or 25 in the nation. So I think we really have a chance to make something special this year.
Next game is when? Where?
So our next game is next Friday versus Heritage Christian. Village Christian, yeah.
Home game?
Our next home game is in January 3rd, I want to say, against Hart or Golden Valley, one of the two.
Okay.
Hart? Yes, Hart. But yeah, our last game was yesterday against Valencia. We had a really great game. We came out on top, but yeah.
Nice. Thank you for that report. All four of you, great presentation, and I appreciated all the information you gave, and it's very helpful to me. Thank you very much. Keep up the good work.
I always enjoy when the students come up. Michelle, I knew she looked familiar. I just couldn't place her. But I love your mom. I've known her for years. She had my daughter. I'm sorry about that, by the way. So, but West Ranch, I love your music program. I mean, I try not to miss it, and it's always so great to be there and enjoy that. So keep up the good work.
Our band has a concert tomorrow and Friday.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to move into our public comments section. If you wish to address the governing board on a topic within the subject matter of the jurisdiction, please request to address the board and return it to the secretary of the board prior to the beginning of the item. Comments regarding the consent calendar will be taken during the consent calendar time. Please use the microphone, state your name if you wish. No action will be taken on any item not appearing on the agenda, and the board president will limit your comments to 2 minutes. The president may limit public comment time based on the number of persons who wish to speak. If you wish to speak regarding an item that appears on the agenda, you will be called upon to make your comments at that time. I would ask you that we have kids watching online, kids, young people in the audience. Please watch your language. I would appreciate that very much. I usually call up 3 at a time. I would ask you to come up so it saves time. We have Glenda, Molly Peters, and Heather Frank.
Before we start, I have to ask a question. I put a card for the BC2, and I wasn't called in. That's regarding the raises for the teachers in classified or certified classified. I just want to, yeah, I just sent it over there. I don't know where it's at.
I've got something here, but It's not part of our comment.
Just to clarify, that item actually was not a discussion of raises, that was the presentation made by our bargaining groups. So that's what that was.
Well, I had a question about that, so that's why I have some carbon. I mean, I could do public speaking and speak about that later, but I would appreciate being able to talk about that issue with the unions because it's very important.
Why don't we work on that, but in the meantime, let's start with the
Let's do the public session.
Okay. Okay, Ms. Moore, you stated a while back that you came from Burbank. Did you come as a board member or did you just come as a parent? As a parent, that's great, it's fine. But were you voted into your seat or did someone just say, okay, you can have this seat because I never saw an election on that? Also, I'd like to see the financials or the sponsors of your last campaign if possible. Mr. Webb, why do you always have to go back and talk to President Messina when he states something? It's like you're always having to do a rebuttal. Why? I don't understand that, okay? I'd like to ask a question on how did the rest of you guys all of a sudden become superintendents? Does that mean you guys got more money and they didn't? That makes no sense. And the last thing I'd like to come up with is the fact that Saugus Band is going to Washington, D.C. Open your pockets, especially you, pass the buck, and give them the money.
Okay, thank you. Molly.
Hi, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. We're talking about all these arts programs because that's what I want to talk about. Earlier, just now you heard from West Range leadership and staff and students about equity and access at West Range High School. As an 18-year veteran of West Ranch, I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit more about the fine arts and what that means for me. Our school and our fine arts department opened in 2004 with 2.5 teachers and we had 5 classes. And now, 18 years later, we have 8 highly qualified art teachers, and we have over 15 fine arts courses for students to choose from. And of course, with that, we offer something for everyone. We have digital photography and orchestra, we have AP courses, theater, stagecraft, music technology, choir. So students at West Ranch can find a home in our arts programs. But even more than that, I think it's worth kind of taking a close look at something that's super important to me, which is the way that arts cultivate and build resiliency in students. Art is not something that can be done overnight. It's not about making stuff or singing a song. What makes our classes finer is how they build skill with repetition and grit. Every day, our teachers push our art students to meet standards and create beautiful art, and every day our students encounter failures. But they learn to use those failures to continually make improvements. When the public sees our concerts or our award-winning artworks, what they're not seeing is the hours of work that students have put into that and all of the setbacks that they've encountered and pushed through to become successful. Art is about respecting the process. And if we want to build resiliency in our students, we have to continue to offer them access to the fine arts. Our art classes are where students find their homes and their people. It's where they find their hidden talents and where they learn to become amazing artists and to find themselves to be opportunity ready in high school and beyond. So thank you all for your continued support in the form of attending our performances and exhibitions, as well as help being...
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it. As Heather comes up, we have Cindy, Rebecca, and Tony.
Good evening. My name is Heather Frame. I've been a teacher for 25 years. I'm an alumni of Saugus High School, a parent of a graduate of West Ranch High School, a daughter of a retiree from the district. Currently, I am in my 17th year teaching English at West Ranch High School. There's a legacy of education in my family. My mother, Leanne, worked with this district for 40 years, retiring as the Director of Food Services in 2015. Both my son, Mackenzie, and I attended Hart District Schools, West Ranch and Saugus, respectively, and we both currently teach at Hart District Schools, Academy of the Canyons, and West Ranch. There have been frames in this district for 47 years, and I know my family is not the only one in the district with this proud family legacy of education. I chose teaching because of the academically challenging and emotionally supportive experience I had as a student in the William S. Hart School District. I want nothing more than for my son to finish his career here, and the way his grandmother did, and the way I will in a few years. But family legacy won't help him afford a home and build a life in the community where he works, given our current salary schedule. I hope when I retire in 6 or 8 years, my son will still be teaching in this district. I hope the negotiations team and the board will honor the legacy of so many other families and compensate young, smart, energetic, and innovative young people to continue the excellence of this district. I'm asking you this evening to encourage the district negotiation team to use the funds promised to this district by the state to support teacher salaries with an increase higher than what they have currently offered. In order to ensure the students of the William S. Hart School District continue to receive the quality academic and social emotional education experience my son and I benefited from, quality teachers need to be recruited and retained by the district, competitive salaries for our quality educators, and encourage current staff members to stay. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather.
Good evening. The biggest bullies in school.
It is about money and power. They have nothing to do with advancing education.
The kids didn't have a voice at the table. It was all sound bites and lies.
They're hiding the answers from parents like me.
They would protect teachers they knew were bad teachers.
They're spending millions of dollars to left-wing groups or politicians every year.
I felt that I didn't have a voice there. They didn't want to listen to us. There's real problems happening with our kids.
They're only working for the union. They're not even working for their teachers. My name is Kali Fontanilla. I'm a former public school teacher of 15 years and the founder of Exodus Institute. I want America to know how teachers' unions are negatively affecting public education in our country. I was born to be a teacher. I had a lot of success in my classroom. I will still always be a teacher, just not in public education. I personally believe the union never represented me. Our schools are supposed to be politically neutral environments, and that's no longer what they are. America needs to see what's happening in our classrooms and how our teachers are being trained to be racist and how a lot of this is being pushed by the teachers' unions. I know my
Ms. Moore, you were a candidate that was endorsed by the corrupt teachers' union. You were the only candidate. Parents are aware of this, and hundreds of parents in Santa Clarita are working together to pull their kids out of the public schools. They are done with the hidden agenda and division of your party that they are pushing. I hope in 2023 you can work with Mr. Messina to stop this division and get the schools back to normality with real education. I believe the mental health issue will decline if we all work together. Thank you.
Thank you. Rebecca Hunter.
Good evening. My name is Rebecca Huntsman, and I'm a Saugus parent. I've come here this evening to talk about our community. In the last 36 hours in the Hart District Area 5, we have had one possible attempt of suicide at Saugus High School, 2 overdoses, and 3 arrests from fentanyl use and distribution in Bouquet Park. 1 apparent gun suicide in a park next to Helmers Elementary. A death from fentanyl this morning near Bouquet Park. And a threat to one of our elementary schools that caused a soft lockdown this morning. This is not a time to be taking sides. This is not a time for blame. This is a time to come together as a community and as a district to have more conversations with families in our community. We need more education regarding the effects of hate and bullying and its effect of risk and its effect on the increases of drug use and suicide. This is for students, that is for students and families. The risk of drug use in today's age is extreme. We have parent-teacher student organizations throughout our district, DFY, and many other clubs on our campuses, as well as other resources. We are all doing our own thing, and messaging is getting lost. It is time for us to unite within the district, to reach out to the community so that we can increase awareness that leads to increased safety, that leads to our children's success. It is time to start hearing more voices by having more roundtables for those with students in the area, have more information sessions at various locations and times for those who have children in the district. The public safety roundtable was wonderful, but we need to reach our community within our schools as well. I'm just going to tighten up my last one because it's a little wordy. We also need to improve our media for our district, not just all these lovely little messages we get. The board should have some media so that we know what has been voted on, what is going on, when meetings are, because not everyone reads the emails. Not everyone goes to the websites. If we could get our media presence increased, I think we would have a better communication level.
Thank you, Rebecca. While calling all the notes coming up, we have Virginia, Diane, and Sandra Rivera.
Hi, good evening. My name is Tony Maldonado. At present, we are fixated on an issue that has divided our community due to no set policy by the district. This division mostly relies on emotions rather than facts, possibilities rather than realities. At the heart of the matter is whether or not flags flown on district properties and/or during school events are free speech or government speech. Given the fact that the district does not have clear guidance or policies regarding this matter, the de facto position, according to the Supreme Court in Schertfeld versus the City of Boston, is that this is a free speech and not government speech matter. According to Best and Krieger, attorneys at law, the case began when a group asked to fly the Christian flag. The City of Boston staff denied the request, citing concerns that it would violate the Establishment Clause. The group sued, claiming that the Boston's denial violated the First Amendment's free speech clause. The federal district court sided with the City of Boston, stating that the flying private groups' flags on City Hall property constituted government speech under the First Amendment and permitted Boston to refuse the flag request. Excuse me. The First Circuit Court of Appeals affirmed. However, the Supreme Court reversed the decision, holding that the flag raising in question amounted to private, not government speech, due to Boston's come one, come all attitude and lack of meaningful involvement in the selection of flags or the crafting of their message. As Boston had no written policy or internal guidance regarding which flags non-municipal groups could fly and what messages those flags might communicate, the court concluded that Boston violated the free speech clause of the First Amendment. The court stated that Boston was free to change its policies to make clear that it wished to speak for itself by raising flags. The court cited approvingly the flag policy adopted by San Jose, California. The court's quasi-endorsement of San Jose's policy strongly suggests that local flag policies with these features will qualify as government speech, allowing the city to permit or reject flying of a flag consistent with those policies. Thank you.
Thank you. Gina Ryan.
Good evening. It is every student's right to respectfully exercise their First Amendment right. The Hart School District is not judge and jury over our children's constitutional rights. Think about what I just said. The students are constitutionally permitted to respectfully express themselves. If you prohibit the flying of flags such as the Blue Line flag, Veterans flag, POW, etc., you are opening Pandora's box at the potential of other rights being taken away from these kids permanently. What's next? Losing the right to vote, the right to a speedy trial? Think about the massive impact one wrong decision by all of you is going to have on them. Our children are in your care for a very brief yet important period of their life. While in your care, your role is to educate them, protect them, teach them clear and accurate description of past historical events, both good and bad, so the bad will not be repeated, and to prepare them to take the reins for all of us when we are no longer able. Should you decide to take away their First Amendment right, you're teaching these kids that their rights do not matter, their voices are not allowed to be heard, and this can will have a major impact on them for now and the rest of their lives. For those opposing these flags, perhaps they also oppose the protection from those who these flags represent. I asked my daughter to join me here tonight for two reasons. Number one, because I want her to see that people are standing up for her and her classmates for their right to exercise their First Amendment. And number two, she's here for all of you. I want you to look at the face of a child like many who has struggled for almost 3 years in this pandemic, who is now facing yet another unnecessary obstacle of having her rights denied. Enough is enough. It's not a coincidence that today is Pearl Harbor Day. They sacrificed for our freedom. Let's not let those lives be lost in vain. The time to stop kowtowing to the few noisy residents is right now. Thank you.
Diane Tillman.
I'm going to say the flag for the flag. that's donating. In case you didn't get a chance to hear who he was or get his site, I'd like to remind you, if I put my glasses on, I can. His name was Jamie Puerta, and his site is stopthevoid.org. I just went on the site and it is there, and it looks like it's pretty good, so I'd like to get that put in your newsletter or whatever, so that people can actually go on there, because fentanyl, thanks to our open borders that won't be closed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, is doing an awful lot of damage, as we all know, so I don't need to tell you. I'd like to see a lot more support for fighting that than fighting ridiculous things that nobody really should be fighting about, and that are being taken up hours and tons of hours that should be taken up in educating our children in the basics. You know, I keep harping on it, but it's really important. And the trades, and you know, the money is going towards other things besides these social, taking the parents' jobs away from them, basically. Let's not do that anymore. Let's let the parents do what the parents do, and you guys educate the kids and the things that will get them through life. I really appreciate that. You know, let them graduate where they can actually get a job doing something, where they can actually write their name, where they can read a paper, and maybe even read cursive. Let's come on, please. I don't know how much longer I have in this life, and you're probably rooting for the, you know, the shorter version, but as long as I have it.
5 seconds.
That's it. Thanks.
Dr. Rivera.
Hello, good evening, everyone. I wanted to start off in prayer. En nombre del Padre, del Hijo, Espíritu Santo. Amén. Padre nuestro que estás en el cielo, santificado sea tu nombre. Venga a nosotros tu reino y hágase su voluntad, así en la tierra como en el cielo. Danos hoy nuestro pan de cada día y perdona nuestras ofensas, así como nosotros perdonamos a los que nos ofenden. No nos dejes caer en tentación y líbranos del mal. Amén. Y quiero hablar también con los padres que están escuchando. Los padres que no pueden venir, pero que sí tienen interés en lo que está pasando con los niños. Nuestros hijos son el futuro. Nosotros tenemos que estar más atentos a lo que está pasando, porque quieren a nuestros niños. Quieren quitar el futuro de nosotros. Nos quieren quitar nuestros derechos de padres a criar a nuestros hijos como uno piensa que es mejor. Por favor, no dejen que la gente de afuera tenga la influencia arriba de un padre, que no puedan hacerlo con sus hijos. And I wanted to ask the attorney, before I run out of time, I don't think that the subject of prayer after the flag was brought up, but I do know that that was of concern to the parents. And I wanted to know, if maybe not in this one, because obviously this is public speaking, it cannot be addressed, but I would like to know what the law or regulation on that is. If somebody can get back to me on that, I would appreciate it. The violence and you know, fear of children's protection at schools is still there. I'm still very interested in that and would like to figure out how we can go ahead and make families and children feel safe. Parents out there, keep vigilant of your children. They're our future. They're after our kids. We need to speak to them, not just about drugs, but about our freedoms and about our medical rights. Thank you.
All right, now we'll move into our special items. Item number A5, 7A, the scholarship grant, Henry Mayo Newhall Foundation. Mr. Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Messina. Each year, the Hart District Governing Board has the honor of accepting unbelievably generous donations from the Henry Mayo Newhall Foundation and approve the disbursement of scholarship grants for our students. And tonight, I'd like to welcome Ms. Janet McEnany, the Vice President of the Santa Clarita Valley Scholarship Foundation. Janet, did I pronounce your last name correctly?
McEnany, like two people, Mac and Annie.
McEnany. Okay, thank you.
That's what I tell the children in the library.
Thank you. So please share a few words. Thank you.
Good evening, Superintendent Coleman, President Messina, and members of the governing board. The Santa Clarita Valley Scholarship Foundation appreciates the opportunity to endorse the board's approval and acceptance of $173,000 from the Henry Mayo Newhall Foundation for scholarships for the class of 2023. In addition, $34,000 of interest and unclaimed awards accumulated between 2015 and 2018 has become available for redistribution to graduating seniors. The scholarships will be distributed at Canyon, Castaic, Golden Valley, Hart, Saugus, Valencia, and West Ranch, with 7 awards given at each school. 2 at $3,000, 2 at $3,500, 2 at $4,500, and 1 at $6,000. 2 scholarships at each alternative school in the amounts of $1,250 and $1,500 will be awarded at the Academy of the Canyons, Bowman, Learning Post Academy, and Sequoia School. The Foundation's applications went online December 1st, which gives senior students approximately 8 weeks to complete and submit to their counselors in January. A committee of counselors and administrators at each school select candidates to be interviewed by Foundation evaluators on March 18th. During the interviews, the volunteers see the best of each student and always come away impressed with the candidate's energy and potential. The Newhall Foundation scholarships will be awarded at the individual senior awards presentations in May. The foundation is requesting that the William S. Hart Union High School District accept and approve $173,000 from the Henry Mayo Newhall Foundation and approve the allocation of $34,000 in recovered unclaimed awards and interest for a total of 57 scholarships to be given to graduating seniors in the class of 2023.
Move to accept the scholarship donation of $173,000 from the Henry Mayo Newhall Foundation and approve the disbursement of $207,000 in scholarship grants, accumulated interest, and unclaimed awards accumulated between 2015 and 2018.
Second.
Moved by Dr. Moore, seconded by Mr. Webb. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Thank you. What you got?
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next item, which is Advisory Committee Honoring Public Servants. This is my Coleman as well. We do have speakers on this, but I'll wait till you're done.
Thank you, President Messina. So in a moment, the governing board will entertain a discussion about board policy. But before we do that, I'd like to share an information item about a new community advisor panel. Many years ago, I was a history teacher at Saugus High School. I taught modern civilizations and U.S. history right around the corner from Mr. Webb. In the spring of each year, we'd come to our unit on the Cold War. And during one of my favorite lessons, we listened to a speech given by John F. Kennedy at American University in June of 1963. At that time, the U.S. and the Soviet Union had recently stepped back from the brink. The Cuban Missile Crisis brought our world the closest it's ever come to global nuclear war. And we know now that both Kennedy and Khrushchev were shaken by the reality of just how close we really came. In this context, Kennedy said, in the final analysis, our most basic common link is that we all inhabit this small planet. We all breathe the same air. We all cherish our children's future, and we're all mortal. Our recent flag controversy highlights the fact that the community has strong differences of opinion on this issue. However, even in the midst of these differences, there appears to be a thread of consensus behind the idea of honoring law enforcement, first responders, and military personnel. The Hart District would like to explore ways to do so in a manner that unites the community behind positive and proactive measures that everyone can support. So I'd like to invite folks who have been on all sides of this issue. I'd like to invite you to be a part of this effort, to work together, to set aside our differences and to work together toward a common cause, because In the final analysis, our most basic common link is that we all inhabit this small community. We all breathe the same air, and we all cherish our children's future. Our staff will convene a committee of community members to explore ways for the district to honor law enforcement, first responders, and military personnel. The committee will meet starting in January of 2023 and share recommendations to the governing board on February 15th. And I'd like to ask each governing board member before our first meeting, of course, to invite one individual to serve on the advisory committee. Our staff will invite additional members to the committee to include an administrator, a teacher, a classified representative, a parent, a representative from law enforcement, first responders, or the military. And additionally, because we've learned this is so important, 5 students from across the district will be invited to participate on this committee. And we're going to get into some debate here in a few minutes. Again, people have differences of opinion, but again, I really see this as an opportunity for folks who are on starkly opposite sides of the issue of this one particular symbol. Set aside the symbol for a moment and work toward really what the symbol represents, is to honor the people I think that we all agree deserve to be honored in our community. So the committee welcomes input from the community on a proactive and positive ways that the Hart District might honor these special public servants. And we realize that we don't have all the best ideas. We really want to reach out to the community. And so whether or not you are on the committee, we welcome community input through a special email address that we have set up. It's advisorycommittee@hartdistrict.org, and we will gather all that information. We will meet as a committee, and then we will report back to the governing board our plans on this effort to bring people together towards something that I think we can all agree upon. So that's my information item for the evening. Does the board have any questions?
Could you repeat the email address, please, Mr. Coleman?
Yes, it's advisorycommittee@hartdistrict.org.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure I had it correct.
There's no vote on this item. This is just informational. Under special items, we have the ability to have both action and information. So this particular item is information, and I thought it was important for us to talk about this before we talk about decisions on flags and banners, just as a reminder that we can find common ground. Even if we have some disagreement about particular symbols, I think that I do see consensus about our desire to make sure these folks are appropriately honored. So, thank you.
Mike, how long did you see the committee functioning or serving together?
Well, initially I thought we would get together and make presentations to the board on February 15th. And at that point, we can decide whether we'd like to continue and bring that committee back with additional items moving forward.
So you said there will be 5 students from the committee, and I able to reach out with their students to join, or would that be?
Oh, Danielle, I'd love to work with you on that. I'd love to work together with you on that.
So the specific goals and responsibility are for them to decide what kind of events or how we honor the law enforcement first responders.
Right, I think as we've gone through this, I've heard folks on both sides of this issue come to the podium and share, why don't we, and then they talk about, for example, a placement of a plaque, or honoring folks by giving them free entrance into some of our activities. These are just some of the things that have been discussed, and I thought, let's put people together and let's give everyone the opportunity to think creatively, and we'll take some of the best ideas and bring them back and share them to the board, because again, I think all of us really can agree on this one piece, which is wanting to make sure that these folks receive the recognition and honor that they deserve.
So you'll be choosing a parent, a teacher, or
and for the for the committee, it was a matter of actually creating a committee that was in a size that was reasonable to allow us to actually bring forward. But we wanted to make sure that no one felt left out, and that's why we have the advisory committee email address, because we welcome other people's ideas to bring forward.
So to be just blunt about it, and make sure we get real balance, how do we make sure we really get a cross-section of what's referred to as somebody might be more conservative on these issues, more liberal on these issues? have some kind of questionnaire, thought process?
I think so. I think there's a little bit of trust that this superintendent understands that this is an issue that for which we have people on both sides of this issue. And in order for this process to work, we have to be transparent and open and have people see that we have folks on all sides. And so I'm going to work hard to make sure that we have representation of all perspectives on this committee.
Okay, we have speakers for this. Santa Rivera, Rebecca Hyman, there's only 4 of you, so let me get your out there ones. Tony Maldonado and Diane Zimmerman.
No, I'm on that too. I'm with a flat.
You've got it marked for D.
Okay, I'll stay.
Okay. Well, actually, some of the questions were semi-answered because one of my concerns was, well, it hasn't been answered, but Joe did kind of touch a little bit on that question, but the email address is a good alternative, but I also too, the way I understood this is the board members and yourself are going to have the opportunity to choose these people, and that's where I was kind of like, that could be biased. So maybe, like what Joe said, there could be some type of process that you can do in which how you choose the people that you're choosing to be a part of this committee, since it seems like it's not going to be open necessarily. It's going to be more intimate. So that was one of the concerns I wanted to bring up or suggest that we look into a little bit more. I also wanted to say I think it's a great idea. I appreciate it. I think that the more that we all try to figure out a way to find platforms of discussing our differences and maybe learning how to communicate them in a way that we can all come to some type of, we're not always going to win, you know, it's never going to be 100%, but that's the beauty of diversity and trying to learn and understand how to try and meet in the middle. It's a give and take on all sides. And then one question you had mentioned about deciding what's best. Who decides that? Who's going to be the one that decides that out of the options that get presented to this committee or that the committee comes up with? Who decides then that which ones are the best options to consider or move forward? Thank you.
Rebecca.
Can I ask a point of order real quick? Joe, I put down B, C, and D.
Yeah, I was just going to call you guys up for each individual item.
Yeah, he basically answered B, so I don't really need the other.
Okay, that's great.
Sorry. It's better than
Three. Tony.
I'm also for C.
Okay.
So
Go ahead, that's fine.
I appreciate this outreach and bringing to the community, it's very much appreciated. One of the concerns that I would like to know, well, that I have basically, how transparent this will be. So in other words, would this be a Zoom meeting or would it be a public meeting regarding the committee formation itself and participation? And further after that, how do we proceed further so you can make a decision? In other words, is it, let's say, based on consensus, for example, or would it be by specific criteria that you would have regarding this method? That would be it. Thank you.
Diane, I made the same mistake with yours. You put in for C and D. This is B. You want to just wait?
Sure. I wasn't sure
All right.
when I wanted to put it under, so thank you very much.
Well, because this is also actually.
Don't need to vote.
All right, now we're moving into C. Board policy and administrative regulations regarding school and district flagpoles. This is also Mr. Coolidge.
Thank you, President Messina. Before we turn to, this is an action item. Before we turn to that, what I want to do is I want to take just a brief moment to bring everyone up to speed from where we've been so that we don't have to start at ground zero. So I'm going to do a little bit of just a review from kind of the start of this issue through the last board meeting, and then I will turn it over to the board and our special guest, Ms. Wendy Wiles, from our, who is our legal counsel. So let me begin with a summary of the flags issue with a little bit of a background and timeline. In September of 2022, I was alerted to a concern of the community about the Saugus High football team carrying the thin blue line flag, henceforth I'll refer to as the TBL flag, onto the field prior to home football games. I contacted the Saugus High School principal to ask for information. The principal spoke with the football coach. The football coach had not authorized this practice. The football coach spoke to his team. No vote had been taken by the entire team to carry the flag. Not every player on the team was or is in support of this symbol representing the team. The coach told the players to discontinue the practice. On September 28th, 2022 of this year, I wrote a statement from the Hart District on the TBL flag that was reproduced in the signal. On October 28th, a Saugus football player brought the TBL flag back onto the field prior to the start of a football game with Golden Valley High School. 2 questions were considered by myself and staff in evaluating this issue. The first was, does the Hart District have board policy or administrative regulations to guide our practice with this newly introduced incident of someone bringing a flag different than the American flag or the California state flag onto the field? And we do not. So in the absence of board policy or administrative regulations, the second question is, what has been the Hart District's prior practice? The generally accepted prior practice in the Hart District is that the American flag and the flag of the state of California, along with some symbols associated with school sites, have been generally flown at district-sponsored events. Given that there remains disagreement about the TBL issue, a decision was made to bring it before the governing board for discussion. So on November 16th, the governing board discussed potential revisions to board policy. To assist with this discussion, we attached sample language that was divided into 2 main categories: the flying of flags on district flagpoles and the flying of flags at school-sponsored activities. The governing board asked that the district flagpole item be brought forward as an action item on the governing board meeting agenda for today, December 7th, 2022, as it has. The governing board asked that the flags at school-sponsored events be brought forward for continued discussion at this same meeting. So briefly, some clarifications that were introduced by our legal counsel at the last meeting. The Saugus issue has raised questions regarding whether a football player has a First Amendment right to bring the TBL flag onto the field, or whether the district may regulate the conduct of football players while participating in football games. Ms. Wendy Wiles from the legal firm Atkinson, Anderson, Loya, Rude and Romo, or AALRR, explained that that football players are at a school or district sanctioned event, which for home games occurs on district fields and district property. Students wear football uniforms to represent that they are part of the district's high school football team. And when acting as a team, these students act on behalf of and represent the school or district, and not themselves as individuals. Accordingly, when the football team runs onto the field carrying the TBL flag, it is possible that a reasonable observer could assume that the TBL flag is being brought onto the field not as an expression of a football player's individual right of speech, but as the district's intended point of view that has been sanctioned by the school or the district or the governing board. As such, Ms. Wiles stated that she believes the district has the right to limit what may be carried onto the football field as part of the school or the district's football game. Ms. Wiles explained that regulating what the football players do while representing the school or district at a football game is entirely different from regulating speech by an individual student in his or her own individual capacity. She also clarified that regulating what football players may do while representing the school or district at a football game is entirely different than limiting a teacher's expression in the classroom. The principles involved, the analysis undertaken, and the rights of the participants are not the same for each of these cases.
Before we move on, I want to clarify, because we're kind of mixing the two together to a degree. C is supposed to be strictly for flagpole, correct?
Correct.
And I just don't want everybody getting confused.
Yeah, I'm sorry, my clarification, before we began, I was giving a little bit of background of how we got to introducing these 2 pieces. So now we turn our attention to 7C, which is Board District Administrative Regulation regarding school and district flagpoles. Recently, the Hart District was presented with issues involving flying of flags and banners. This issue has arisen in conjunction with requests that certain commemorative or symbolic flags might be flown or not flown on flagpoles at school district sites and district properties. So tonight, we are presenting two options for the board's consideration. Option one captures the district's prior practice of only flying American and state flags on district flagpoles, like the ones that we have right outside here in the boardroom. And option two outlines procedures for authorizing commemorative flags and banners to be flown temporarily together with American and state flags. So with that, I will turn it over to our governing board and Ms. Wendy Wiles if you have any questions or discussion.
You want to say anything first, or? Oh, okay. So I do have speaker cards for this item, but please bear in mind, this is specifically for flagpoles on district property. I have Diane Zimmerman. You still wish to speak?
Just for a second, I'm seeing from here.
Okay.
I'm gonna be under B.
Okay.
We're done here.
Rebecca
No,
Hyman,
no.
you also still wish to speak? Okay, I think that was a yes. Yes or? Okay. Santa Rivera
We're just
and
talking about
Tony Maldonado.
flagpoles.
This is, again, this is strictly the flagpole. You'll have a chance to talk about the other things after.
Hello again, and thank you. Just take a few seconds because I'm under D. I don't see any really good reason for anything but the United States flag and the California flag to be flying on the pole. As well as we all know, I don't see anything wrong with what happened in the ball game. But the big opinion of the most important person in the Santa Clarita Valley is that we'll probably should just have the California and the United States first, California second.
Okay, thank you. Rebecca?
I agree with Diana. But I do agree the school flag as well, like if we have a champion or something like that, you were saying that like some kind of district flag.
That was in reference to the extracurricular activities.
Oh,
I think this is really
Because we
about.
like, we only have two flagpoles,
Yep.
not three.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I gotta remember that. So yes, American flag or California flag, and you just keep it simple. Nice
Yeah.
picture, that would be awesome.
That was easy. Okay,
Yeah.
Santa Rivera.
It's going to be very easy because I agree with the first two speakers, but I did want to kind of comment on the summary of the flag issues. One of the, you had mentioned that you were contacted by the Saugus High School principal, which just kind of brought the curiosity of, was it really not that big of an issue that the principal didn't reach out to you? You had to reach out to the principal. I was just kind of curious if maybe it became a bigger issue because you reached out to the principal. I'm not sure if that kind of stirred the pot a little bit more. But yes, I do agree that it'll be easier for you guys if you guys stuck with the option of just the California and the United States flag. I think that it might be a little bit more complicated for you guys as different opinions get brought up to the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony Maldonado.
Hello. As a constitutionalist, I support option one, restricting the flagpole just to the United States and the California state flag. Justice Breyer, delivering the court's opinion in Schertfeld versus the city of Boston, stated, when the government encourages diverse expression, say by creating a forum for debate, the First Amendment prevents it from discriminating against speakers based on their viewpoints. But when the government speaks for itself, the First Amendment does not demand airtime for all views. After all, the government must be able to promote a program or expose a policy in order to function. The line between a forum for private expression and the government's own speech is important but not always clear. This case concerns a flagpole outside Boston City Hall. For years, Boston has allowed private groups to request the use of the flagpoles to raise flags of their choosing. As part of this program, Boston approved hundreds of requests to raise dozens of different flags. The city did not deny a single request to raise a flag until 2017. Harold Schertfeld, the director of a group called Camp Constitution, asked to fly a Christian flag. Boston refused. At that time, Boston admits it had no written policy limiting the use of the flagpole based on the content of the flag. Parties dispute whether, on these facts, Boston reserved the pole to fly flags that communicate governmental messages, or instead open the flagpole for citizens to express their own views. If the former, Boston is free to choose the flag it flies without the constraints of the First Amendment's free speech clause. If the latter, the free speech clause prevents Boston from refusing a flag based on its viewpoints. We conclude that on balance, Boston did not make the raising and flying of private group's flag a form of government speech. That means in turn that Boston's refusal to let Shirtlev and Camp Constitution raise their flag based on its religious viewpoints abridge their freedom of speech. U.S. Constitution Amendment 1. Therefore, again, as a constitutionalist, I support option 1. We strengthen the flagpole just the United States flag and the California flag. Thank you.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to adopt and approve revised board policy administrative regulation 6115, ceremonies and observances, with option number 1, which captures the district's prior practice of only flying American state flags and district flagpoles.
Second.
Who was that?
Mrs. Storm. Could I ask a question though before we vote?
I was going to ask if you guys have comments or questions.
No, that's okay, because I think we're, nothing, and Mr. Coleman, I don't know if we need to split hairs here, but on page 2, I'm wondering, where it says upon order of the president, do we need to be specific and say upon the order of the president of the United States? Or is that understood?
Well,
I don't think it's necessary, but I don't think it would hurt to add that. You can certainly add that.
And then same in the governor of the state of California. Again, I'm not splitting hairs, I just,
He's splitting hairs, but it's
That's
probably can't.
That's not bad.
You can.
sure, okay. That was the only thing I had. That was just a suggestion since we are adopting the actual language.
You are?
We are voting we have a motion by Mrs. Jensen, a second by Mrs. Dorley. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That motion carries. Now we move on to item D. Mr. Coleman, this is your call.
Okay. So as we're aware that recently our district has been presented with issues involving flying flags and or banners at district or school-sponsored events, including football games. District staff desires to discuss these issues, meaning the board, to enable, we would like to provide an opportunity for the governing board to discuss these issues and provide guidance on how we can prepare options for future board policy and administrative regulations. 2 options are presented tonight for the board's consideration, and remember, this is only for discussion, no action. Option 1 captures the district's prior practice of only displaying the American or state flags along with flags and banners or symbols or other insignia that involves or promotes the school, the district, team, club, organization, or the specific event or sport. And option 2 calls for the governing board to authorize or deny specific requests for exceptions to the above rule. And so I will turn it back over to our governing board for continued discussion.
Mr. Messina, are we going to go first, or is the audience going to go first?
I would think that we bring up the public first and then we can comment after that.
Okay.
Okay. We have, first we have Glenda. Again, if I get one of these wrong, because there's a lot of letters on there, just wave me off, okay? We have Glenda, again, Rebecca, and Tony for the first 3.
This is going to be a combination of a couple things, okay? First of all, we're talking about school-sponsored events and the flag. Everybody gets it, it's causing a lot of friction between everyone. But let's talk about something else that happens at school-sponsored events. Bathrooms at the last game were filthy at Canyon High School. And why was that? Because you don't have enough staff. That is embarrassing. I think the flags are bad. Bathrooms are embarrassing, and other schools are coming in to see us. Why are they dirty? Because we do not have enough staff to cover it. And why do we not have enough staff to cover it? Well, that video up there said that you guys have competitive pay compared to other schools or other districts, okay? So it doesn't have to do with flags, it has to do with that, but our kids out there are not only playing and watching these flags, but they're having to sit in a bathroom that's disgusting. So you know what? If you can carry your flag around there, clean the damn toilets and give these guys some money so that we can be respected.
Mr. Messina, I would like to, point of order, just remind everyone of what you said initially about refraining from the use of profanity during public comments.
Yes, I did ask when you started doing that. Rebecca.
Hello again. I would like to talk in support of option 1. I do believe the newer option, especially for the tributes and for the advisory committee, I think we could actually get something constructed out of that. That if we keep it clean to just the American flag, California flag, and school-related flags, that would include for Saugus the pancake flag. I still don't understand what it means, but I love seeing the pancake flag. It's kind of fun. One of these days, before my kids graduate, I want to get the explanation. But I do believe that it should be supportive for the team, for the school, and representing the district. I believe there are other better ways for us to honor those who have served and to have other discussions, like places where we could have banners or anything like that to support, let's say, Pride Month or something of that sort. There are places that we can do that as a community. So I do support option 1. Thank you.
Thank you. Tony.
Hello again. Impromptu. I'm in support of option 1, mostly because of the fact there's a constitutional question here regarding government speech and freedom of speech. We must make that very definitive to all, students, parents, and the community. At the given stage that we are right now, there's a lot of confusion. If you will restrict this to just government speech, and therefore option 1 is the most logical selection to use at this given point. If you choose option 2, it's a free-for-all. You will have to open the forum up to everyone, no matter what the flag may be. I support many different groups. However, we will never be in consensus, let's be honest. So option 1 will be the most logical one. And to find a different form to have that expression. If we decide that the parents are able to do this, or people in the stands, then let's support that and publicize that. Make it very well known, free speech in those areas. But restricting them to the fields or anything like that because it's government speech. But again, that must be made very clear. And unfortunately, I'm concerned that even if we go with option 1, that will not be very well known to everyone. So you must make that publicized in your website. You must also publicize that ahead of time before any event. So people are very clear on their positions. Everyone has a passion. Everyone wants to express that, of course. We're in an era where you feel something, so you must say something. That's our era, that's our epoch right now, in which we're in. So therefore, I support option 1. But again, with the publicizing all your rules, all the regulations in advance, and just making a public notice that events are restricted to government speech at that given point by whomever it may be, respecting the district at that stage. Thank you.
Diane, Cindy, and Sandra.
Harping on something that is
Go ahead, get started.
the thin blue line flag being flown on the field at the Saugus football games, it should never have even been brought up. Children may have asked, what is that flag? The majority of the parents would have responded, that flag is honoring the men and women of law enforcement and thanking them for all they do to protect us. But no, organizations such as the NAACP, Black Lives Matter, and Antifa, and the innocent, I mean innocent supporters that they have pulled into believing all of their anti-American rhetoric will look for any and all excuses to reinsert what a racist society they pretend us to be. All of this is for nothing but to dumb down the children of the United States of America. Instead of these children getting the education they need to succeed, you've heard this before, they graduate and graduate knowing how to read, write, math, everything I said before. These groups push for the government to be, them to be dependent on the government, expanding racism, anything that benefits their socialist, communist values. Be ignorant enough, and the government will bail you out free, everything free, that all of a particular race should be monetarily compensated for things that happened hundreds of years ago. That school personnel, not parents, are much better equipped to handle students' social and educational situations. More and more real Americans are onto these organizations and their tactics and the poor people that they suck into them. I hope that's not a bad word, Mr. Webb.
Thank you, Diane.
I'm almost through. More and more Americans are onto these organizations.
Come on, Diane.
Not
Everybody
gonna
gets
run
to
the
it.
great United States.
Thank you.
We're not gonna become communists.
Cindy.
Good evening. We all know the student carrying the flag was honoring the people who saved his friends' lives. But yet here we are spending time with this issue when we should be focusing on the safety and future of the children. We are in big trouble as this administration is sacrificing them, keeping the borders open to criminals, human trafficking, and fentanyl. But the radical left wants to continue to focus and bully you regarding race and a flag. Isn't that about what, it isn't about being threatened, it's about control and a political agenda. I feel threatened by the BLM flag as it is a Marxist group who destroyed cities and killed many Americans, but that's okay to them. I feel threatened about the fentanyl coming over the border and killing our children daily now, but that's okay. I feel threatened by the porn and transgender being pushed on young children, but that's okay. I feel threatened when I am mocked when I speak the words of God, yet they can have, they push their school Satan clubs, but again, that's okay. I'm a conservative pro-life Christian and I am threatened by people killing babies, but that's okay. And here we are at a school board meeting fighting over a flag. This should not be happening. Again, this is not about the flag, it's about the progressive, radical left gaining more control, bullying you and your children. They will continue if you allow it. I believe you all see this but are afraid to stand up and stop it. When is enough enough? Our kids are dying. Mr. Messina, we all thank God for you, but you can't fight this battle of good and evil alone. Mr. Webb, you say parents and students are watching, so I'm going to direct my attention to them. Parents, pay attention to what's happening. Have conversations with them and your children and keep them on the right path. Your life might be easier if you don't fight this battle between good and evil, but your children's life won't. Students, I'm asking you to check out the scriptures of the Bible while you're on your phones. Always know that you have choices. Stand for yourself. Do not let the evil destroy you. You are our future. Thank you.
Thank you. And Santa Rivera.
Well, I need to say thank you, Cindy. That was very well said. Pretty much Tony took the words right out of my mouth. I do agree that the option is going to, it's better if we're more specific and we keep it as simple and nobody's going to argue if they're from the United States about the United States flag. And if they're living in California and they don't like it, they can move somewhere else. So I think that it's just, you're just going to have to be more specific or very clear, especially when it comes to the way the attorney explained it last time, the difference between government speech and public speech. I think it would be great to maybe even have an assembly with the children so that they can understand that as well. And just like I think Rebecca had mentioned earlier, and I've heard it a couple times brought up, getting the word out. Maybe you could use, I don't know, I think she said social media maybe, or something to reach out to more parents about what's going on with the school, because you know, some people do look at the website, some people don't, but everybody seems to be on social media nowadays. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to comment a little. I think there's some confusion here as to, so the options for this item B, would you clarify it, please?
Yes. Option 1 captures the district's prior practice. Thank you, Mr. Messina. I'm sorry. Option 1 captures the district's prior practice, only displaying the American or state flags, along with flags and banners or symbols that involve or promote the school. While option 2 calls for the governing board to either authorize or deny other flags when requests are made to the board. So option 1 is sort of enshrining what we basically have always done, which is at these events, that the flags that are brought out, just like that picture there in the back of Saugus High School coming out, they can carry the American flag, they can carry the state flag, and they can carry flags associated with school or activities. Option 2 says a group can come in and say, I would like for you to fly the flag, and I will say something inoffensive, the flag of Arkansas, okay? And then the governing board would have to we would establish some procedures, and the governing board would have to vote for yes or for no for every other flag that has been proposed.
So we're clear. These are okay?
I'm clear.
All right. And so I have a couple of questions here. By the way, is Rebecca still here? Rebecca? I found out that the pancake flag.
Thank you, I was just about to put that on a
Did
chart.
somebody just tell you about that?
No, I was
All
gonna
right, so
ask.
the pancake flag, because I asked the same question, what the heck is pancake flag?
Right.
It actually refers to a play where they slam the other player down on the ground and
Okay, that makes sense.
so it's kind of like they're, oh, yes, let's pancake somebody. So,
Okay.
It really refers to your husband will know this, it refers to a fantastic block
Right.
that one player makes on another and just puts the other player flat on the ground. Rick, you probably made several of those blocks during your career, but that's what a pancake is.
So I guess the question would be, so option 1 would totally preclude, as I brought up before and said, if there was a Veterans Day celebration, would there be any kind of, to have the ability, if the soldiers came on, the veterans came on with the flags?
Let me clarify that, and would you please correct me about this? Okay, so what we're talking about is hypothetically that there is no condemnation of any individual students, but I want to share with you the example that we're talking about here is an individual students or students who are making a choice to display a flag or a banner on their own at a school-sponsored event, the type of event that can be seen as representing the school or the district. So what this guidance would say would be students would be free to, as long as they do so together with the authorization of the administrators and the coaches, etc. They can bring out the American flag, they can bring out the state flag, but they don't have the ability to, on their own, to make a decision, I'm going to fly the Arkansas flag today. Now, that does not preclude the governing board from, let's say there's a particular month and they'd like to honor the American veterans. Folks could still come to the governing board and say, we'd like to have a special recognition for our American veterans on this particular date, and the governing board could authorize that.
That's an option 2.
No, that's actually an option 1. Option 1 says for individual students, and Wendy, can you weigh in if I'm not doing a good enough job of explaining? Okay.
You need to use the mic too.
The idea that the idea in the current discussion of co-curricular and extracurricular activities is really relating to what students on their own can or cannot do, so that there is some guidance to students, and it's in part because of the concern as to whether there is or isn't a First Amendment right for students while participating in district, co-curricular events, can then go and do that. So the idea behind the policy is for the board to decide when we are having a co-curricular event, football game, basketball game, swimming event, whatever, maybe music, are we going to restrict so that we are keeping whatever may be displayed by students to those things that represent the school, the district, the United States flag, limiting those. The question that Ms. Messina, I think, raised was a little bit different, which was not what students may bring onto the field, but what the board may choose to do, and it decides it wants to honor veterans as an example. Could they do that? And that's really not a part of this particular policy, it doesn't restrict, the policy doesn't restrict either of them. What the board may choose to do to honor someone is really geared towards letting students know what's acceptable or not acceptable for them while they're representing the district.
I did have a follow-up to that. Can I do that one first?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I just want to be clear because, this is very confusing. We have, some of these things are kind of mixed together and we're sounding like we're saying the same thing. So in a real situation, let's say the Valencia football team goes to the principal, goes to the coach and says, hey, we've got a game on Friday. Friday is Veterans Day. We'd like to bring out the flags and maybe even a couple of veterans. Would the site have the ability to say that's okay, the principal and coach, or would they have to come to us?
They would come to you, and part of the reason why we're looking at this is because you don't have a policy. And since you don't have a policy, it is creating the issue of students not knowing what is okay or not okay versus what does the board want and how do you want that to be. So if regardless of these policies, if board members wanted to do something and say, okay, let's say it's Veterans Day and team A and B are playing, let's go ahead and have some type of recognition, the board would be able to choose to do that. But the idea behind the two policies as they're presented is either it's limited, option one, it's limited and there aren't really additional options for students to decide what they want to do, or option two, which is giving some flexibility. It still comes back to the board, because the board has to choose what type of forum you're wanting to have in this kind of an event. And when you open it up, you're creating the public forum, which is allowed, which you can't just regulate on content, but what are you then allowing? And that's where this becomes somewhat challenging.
Thank you. I don't know about anything, but Dr. Moore, I think you were first. Go ahead.
Okay. First, I want to thank all the public for their comments. And Ms. Wiles, Attorney Wiles, also for trying to explain what is complicated. Because as you share, it's limited, but as I look at it, and Mr. Maldonado, I think, said it most eloquently, you open up the floodgates, even in option one, because it says students may also display flags, banner symbols, or other signal insignia involving or promoting their school, the district, and this is a piece that opens up the floodgates, their team, club, or organization. Because we have 1,000 clubs that could all have a flag, and could all have a banner, and could all have a symbol. And we keep starting clubs, and we're not going to stop starting clubs. We don't have the club that was brought up last time yet, but that's a yet. And so the limit to me, I guess, is not limited, even in option one. So I'm stuck with seeing really the difference between option one and option two, and getting to where I think what I'm hearing from the folks who spoke, where we really want to get to. That's my comment for now.
I had a similar question to Mr. Messina, just following up, because again, I think, if there were a situation in which a band, for example, was performing around Veterans Day, and they wanted to honor the five military, why can't I think of the word? Services, thinking. I should know that. Would that have to come to the board? Or can it go through the administration? I'm just trying to wrap my head around, because Dr. Moore and some of the public comments bring up some really good considerations. I'm trying to understand the difference between option one and option two.
And I'm sorry, I just want to add to it. I don't want our meetings to be taken up with having to decide what flags this club can use, and that's not what our business is. We're trying to make sure that our schools have the best education. And to have to think about either of these options for our 1,000 clubs and teams and organizations, it's exhausting to think about that becoming our work. That is not what I want to do on this board. I want to focus on making sure that every student has opportunity ready. And I don't know how either of these gets us to that.
Some people seem to think that the public doesn't know the difference between wearing a Trump hat in the audience at a football game or carrying a Trump banner. It's really simple. You can wear anything that the community would think was not, it'd be sexual in nature. The things that we know are okay. You can wear those in the audience. You can't, of course, you always have been. There's a little question about, and I'm going to have Mr. Makus listen here, little question about teachers. I remember once I had a candidate, and I was told I couldn't wear that as a teacher. I got it, but the students could, and I also understood that. I did understand the difference. But I think most 12th grade students, hopefully if their government teacher has done their job, has them understand that at a football game or a concert, they can wear a hat or a badge or a banner if they want on themselves. What we're saying and what I'm concerned about is school events like football game, and it's got nothing to do with the blue line flag. And I think you realize that I'm very much in support of our sheriff's department and Leo's, but any flag that's other than the American flag and the California flag and the Saugus banner or the Canyon banner coming onto the field looks like it's being okayed by the district. So in my opinion, nothing else goes during those times of a public game or event except the American flag, the California flag, and the school flag. And that just makes it really simple.
But what would be the downside? Even Mr. Webb talking about a band, I thought about the band, Mr. Wright about the band. They could be playing patriotic songs on a certain event.
And that
showing the flags.
Yeah.
So are we saying they're not even, veteran flags aren't even?
No, I don't think we're saying that. What's happened here with the blue line flag, it's got two issues going. Some people think it needs it, but take that away. Take away that we're talking about the blue line flag. Once we allow the Beach Boys flag to be brought onto the field, because they're my band, then the next week, someone could bring an absolutely obnoxious, deplorable, horrible thing onto a field, and when we deny them that, we're going to be in a lawsuit that's going to cost us millions of dollars. And I don't want to spend my money fighting a lawsuit about what might be brought on, because I would get out there and take down a swastika myself. And if somebody's...
I'm sorry, with all due respect, we're all over the place. I'm talking about Veterans Day flag on Veterans Day, our military that protect us.
Of course.
And Mr. Webb, you had a comment?
No, I had directed a question to Mrs. Wiles, and I don't know if it got the opportunity to be answered. Again, because I'm thinking of some other school districts, because I did work in Minnesota and Florida before I came to California, and granted they're different states, but I can remember around Veterans Day, the 5 flags. I'm just wondering if, let's look at option 1, hypothetically we take that. Would a band, be able to, be able to bring that out, not a football game, in order to tie in the theme of their performance or their concert? Does that question sound clear?
Well, are you saying if the band was playing, for instance, around Veterans Day and they wanted to then carry...
They're playing John Philip Sousa, and they want to bring out their, they want to bring...
military song.
Right, and they wanted to bring out the Marine flag.
Anchors Away.
Yes.
Or Anchors Away. And I'm just asking for my clarification.
No, I understand. And so the idea behind that is they can play whatever music they want. There's nothing wrong with that. That's the music. The question is, are we going to then vary from the school or vary from the district or vary from the sport. In this case, it's the music, but we're saying when you then start to get a very, I don't want to say thin line, but it's a very razor edge to, is this now getting into the topic or content of what we're trying to support? And once you go there, you're opening up to all kinds of things. It may not be representative of music that particular time. We mentioned the Beach Boys, so it would be a different type of music, and now they want to bring out, a whole nother group of items. So it seems, you'll have to decide as the board whether you want to restrict it or whether you want to have it open. But to the extent, let's just say that the board or the band, for instance, said we're going to be playing at a such and such location, and we'd like to be able to bring out additional personnel or military or whatever we wanted to do, that's something appropriately they can go to the board and say, can we do this, is this okay? As opposed to leaving it to what students are going to choose what they want to do. Because this is related to what regulations you're talking about for students coming out. This is the idea behind this, was giving some direction to students so that you don't have things that may not be otherwise acceptable to represent the district.
So where does the board fit into this? When I look at option 1, these are other flags besides the American and the California, symbol, banner, flag, insignia, involving or promoting, their specific event. So if they have a specific event, they want to have a flag or banner or insignia for that specific event. It says it shall be approved in advance by the applicable coach, teacher, sponsor, or other supervisor. So they want to have a banner for that specific event. They go to their teacher, coach, sponsor, or supervisor, get it approved, and they fly it, or they exhibit it, correct?
Yes.
So why does it have to go to the board then?
Well, it would in that sense. So if we were talking, like we started this because it was football, so it was relatively easy to say, you've got the football team, or you have the football mascot, or you have something like that. And then when we say event, and maybe that's not the best word to use.
I think it is. I mean, we go on to talk, granted, it did start with football, but we do say promoting their school,
yep,
district, team, club, organization, or specific event or sport. So I think of a specific event that could be a concert by a choir, it could be a band concert, it could be theater performance, right? And they may want to have a school flag or some other flag that promotes that particular play or performance. They would get that approved, as I understand it, by the coach, teacher, sponsor, or supervisor. End of story.
Yes, and I agree with you on that. And I think when you mentioned, a particular event, let's say there was it was Phantom of the Opera, and so they wanted to then have some representation of the characters in Phantom of the Opera. That's tied to that, where it's trying to, the idea behind this is trying to limit it so it's not going beyond what the particular sporting event or event from the band or music. And I know we then got a little bit into what about clubs. And we didn't really talk about clubs in this. We kind of have to think about clubs, which is not really specified here. But I think yes, if they were doing they're going to do a performance of Phantom of the Opera, and can they then bring out other things related to Phantom of the Opera? I think that would be appropriate.
The club could have an event also. To me, it seems like you're putting great reliance on your faith in the teacher, the coach, the sponsor, or the supervisor interpreting this the way the board wants it interpreted, and thinks it should be interpreted, because you could have a teacher, coach, sponsor, or whatever supervisor who feels like, yeah, we're having a choir performance. So, the Beach Boys were a singing group, and I like the Beach Boys, your supervisor might say, so let's have a Beach Boy banner. When it really doesn't relate to that concert, but it is what the coach might think does. So when you draw the line then and say, okay, who's the final determinant? You see what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's why these are complicated, and it's helpful to hear all the comments because it lets thought given to either typing the language or being more specific in what you're trying to achieve. So, hearing the discussion on this as to what board members may think could be appropriate, and then also the issue of, which we've heard, if you don't want to have to decide every one of these, but you want to say, yes, it is consistent with the event, whether it's the football game or the performance by the drama group or the music performance, those types of things. It's hearing where the board is going on these that lets the policy be crafted.
I like what you just said, it goes with the event.
Right, because
That narrows it down, so we don't have to make a decision on a thing. If it goes with the event and the principal has allowed the event and the band leader has allowed the songs, then having a flag that shows the songs would be okay. I don't want to be.
Right.
I don't want
Because that's open.
Because
Yeah.
in Ms. Wiles' example of the Phantom of the Opera, there's a scene where the flag of France is displayed in the opera. And again, I know, but these are just all things that I think we need to consider, and I apologize, Mr. Coleman, but
No, but they're all things that are gonna come up.
right, exactly. So I'm trying in my mind to really process this.
I want to commend the board actually because this discussion really does highlight, this has brought to my attention, having a band, being a band family now. I'm thinking of the flags and banners when the kids come out, but every year they have an event. Here's what I'm hearing, I think I'm hearing, I'm just going to sort of propose some loose ideas here. I think what we were getting at was that the U.S. and the state flags in this situation like this we're kind of saying these are the defaults to begin with. And the concern with students, I think what we're saying is we're trying to come up with a policy that says you have the defaults of these two flags, and I believe I'm hearing that we want to provide some guidelines so that students don't just unilaterally on their own decide I'm going to fly this particular flag on this particular day at this school-sponsored event. Okay, it's not the same as a student can wear a shirt, or they can do that. But in this particular scenario, there's a football team. An individual student says, I want to fly this particular flag. So we have the default. We have no students unilaterally choosing anything on their own. I think what we're saying is that the flags and banner options must be approved by a sponsor or a supervisor, and that the board might help put together some strong guidelines for what those things are. And then you kind of have to trust staff to interpret the guidelines and then possibly build in, if there is disagreement about the interpretation of those guidelines, then what are the next steps? For example, it may be that interpretation is brought to the superintendent first to look at the guidelines and say, is this okay or not? And then perhaps if that's not sufficient, then it comes to the board. But what this says is that, I mean, in particular case, with no offense at all to this individual student, we're not looking to do that, but the question was whether it's appropriate for an individual student or a couple of students to sort of make a decision to fly a flag different than the U.S. or the state flag. And I think what if we sort of kind of operated that, what we're saying is that it's hard for us to envision coming up with a policy where we can dial down every available scenario. Instead, I think what you have to do is you have to provide guidelines, and then you have to, I might suggest we have to delegate some of the authority to some of the administration to make some initial choices, because that then takes into consideration all the complexity of the flags and banners for the band, and the flags and banners for the and how that is different than what we're doing now is we just don't have those guidelines, right? We just don't have that yet.
So are we okay with letting staff rewrite this then?
Yes.
And I would also add, I think maybe with the formation of the advisory committee, there might be some ideas to come out of that as well. But I do think, Mr. Coleman, you are correct. There needs to be some autonomy and understanding among the administrators, and then I think with you too as the superintendent, with that. But then also, I would also advocate an appeal process if needed, so that we make sure that it is equitable and fair.
So in this particular scenario, take the thin blue line. If we had this in place, what may have happened, let's say the administration looked at it and said, this is a thumbs up, and then there was a concern expressed, it was brought to the superintendent. The superintendent, let's say in this scenario, said, I disagree, we're not going to fly that flag anymore, and then the community still is unhappy with that. We would have a procedure then for it to come to the board for its consideration. And we would hope that that would therefore mean that every individual flag wouldn't have to come before the governing board. Which I think is what you're saying, but only the exceptions.
We would hope, where are you going next, Ann? No, go ahead.
Dr. Where you go?
I have a question, and it's gonna go.
I'm just looking at how much time we are spending on talking about flags, and we're in the business of educating and educating students. If we are going to come up with some guidelines, I keep looking up right here at our strategic plan and how we are trying to align our decision-making with the values that we have in the strategic plan. So if there is going to be guidelines established, I think that needs to be a part of the conversation and included. Again, I come back to the broadness and the lack of being limited with the way that it is written now, and thinking about what that could look like. It almost makes you move to the direction of allow everything or allow nothing. It's broad, and I don't know that we're ever going to get guidelines enough that get us to where, again, I think people want to be, and I guess because of that, I'm thinking that we should not be spending more time on flags, but I know we will.
So the consensus is that staff takes it, rewrites the policy around what we've discussed tonight and brings it back for discussion.
I think we want to hear from Danny first, because maybe that's,
Yeah,
she might have a better idea.
Can't leave your hand up.
You probably will.
Okay, so I have a couple of questions and comments. First off, I know that this does include clubs, and specifically when looking at, I'll use football for an example, I was wondering how much this regulation would focus on a specific club, specifically our student sections. For example, Golden Valley's The Den has a tendency to bring flags. So I was wondering if this regulation or limitation would apply to that club, even though it's with a bunch of students that, like, not all of them are a part of the Den, not all of them are even a part of Golden Valley. Another example I can think of is another school had a patriotic themed football game, and with that, there were multiple students. It was like filled. You could see the photos on Instagram of support for a specific presidential candidate. So I was wondering where exactly we would draw that line. Also, the thing or the main argument that I'm noticing with limiting it further is with performing arts. So one way to kind of tweak the wording that I think we should consider is making a separation between athletics, because games such as football, basketball, soccer, and volleyball, majority of those supporters are right there on the field or on the stadium, whereas performing arts like band and theater, that's where you could maybe see those possible exceptions where, if the play pertains to something about France, you may want to include France in that. So if we could make that specific indication, and I know the first worry that comes to my mind is the fact that we're making two different policies for two different organizations, which is athletics versus performing arts. But I do believe with the different amounts of, attention you get, whereas athletics while they're playing, they're front and center, whereas band, color guard, as well as even theater, they're up on a stage, they're in the stands, as well as the den or student sections. I think we should try to maybe focus on differentiating.
To her point about play, I mean, this really wouldn't apply to a theater production if they had a flag or a banner. I mean, if they were doing something, right? I mean,
No, but the question had been raised, well, what about, with band or music, when I started thinking about, well, if you were having, if you were doing some kind of
You're doing a
performance,
play.
you're certainly not gonna have anything to do with performance as well.
okay, all right, good.
That's the performance, but it's also, in the performance is really the sponsor, leader,
Sure, I get it.
whoever's in charge of it is the one who's doing that. It's not the kids deciding what's okay.
But wouldn't we
her point,
consider-
the restaurant administrator doesn't go, oh, wait a minute, you can't put that flag or banner up there, this is a play. Go ahead.
But wouldn't we just, again, processing? A band performance is still a performance, just like a theater performance is a theater performance. That's where I'm trying to, get that fine line, you know what I mean? Because, I know.
I mean,
Sorry.
let's just, if we, to Mike said, he said, if we trust them, so if we really trust the site, the principal we put in place, well, the principal sign on
With guidelines, in other words.
Right.
If it's a play, and he comes and says, okay, the play is about World War II, we're gonna have things or symbols that may not be very nice, but it's about World War II. Give the principal the ability to sign up because it's specific to that play and what's going on, right? Band, same thing, if it's a Veterans Day thing and the band is playing it, we go through the anchors away and stuff, the principal sign up the flag that they can have that kind of flag. I don't think that has to come in front of us, do you?
Right, no, I agree, because as Mr. Coleman said, we are putting trust in our superintendent, in our administrators, and, there would be a justifiable reason, it just would not be to be flippant, because I want to.
Dr. Moore, if I might ask, you look like you were not in agreement. I want to make, I'm taking notes on how I might tell me, is there any guidance you can give?
Guidance that I can give, and it's not that I'm not in agreement, it's that I want to this matter about flags. I'm looking at other school district policies and flags, and I know we've looked at other school district policies and flags as we come up with this. I want us to trust that, and I'm probably naive in this, but I want us to trust that this is the only time that this has become an issue since the Confederate flag, which was when you were at Canton. I don't know how long ago that was. I guess I want to believe in the good of people, and that if we use these, our values as guidelines, that we haven't had a policy all this time, and maybe we need a policy, but maybe we don't need a policy. And we trust that guidelines within these values, again, we had that issue, I don't know how long ago that was, we had this issue. We know we're in tumultuous times, but this is not who we are all the time as a society, as a community. Talk about we all breathe the same air. I just don't think that it's going to continue to be, and I could be completely naive and wrong, an issue that should take up, again, this amount of our time focused on educating students. That's all. But I will go with wherever the board goes on it, but I do think we've spent a lot of time.
And part of this, though, is that legal has advised that we put a policy together. To your point, we never had one. There's a lot of things we never had that have come up recently.
Yes,
that
the
we've
world
had
is
to
changing.
deal with.
Yes.
Yes, because what comes at us. But I think if legal is telling us to avoid certain things, you need to have a policy that let's have something we can all live with.
I think it's at least worth having Mike explore, because we've fleshed out a lot of you've had good points, Danny, good points, James, Linda, I think myself, Joe, a lot of good points from the public as well. I think we need to at least flesh those out and attempt to come up with something, and maybe it ends up that it doesn't work, but I think we're doing what we can.
I think I have enough information to help us put together something that maybe simply that the policy itself prevents us from getting to the point in the future where we say, I disagree, now what? The policy then helps us say, okay, here's what the policy says, here's, if you have a disagreement, here's the process that we go through, and that's transparent, and everyone knows that, and I think we have enough information to put something together that might work, so we'll bring that back at a future meeting, try to have that available when we meet back in January.
Move on.
So we can move that in, right?
We are going to skip over the staff wellness resources and bring it back at the next meeting that we can. We'll move on to item 8B, revised and deleted board policies and administrative regulations, first reading. Dr. Vieira.
Thank you, Mr. Messina. The attached board policies, administrative regulations, and board bylaw are presented tonight as first reading. These are also sent to review to the board member committee for board policies and regulations. I'll briefly provide an overview of the revisions. In board bylaw 9100 organization, this would revise the bylaw to reflect current laws and recommendations from CSBA, specifically with requirements regarding the annual organizational meeting. It was last revised in 1993. The remainder of the policies and regulations are updating the district's processes for bids, purchasing, and contracts to comply with current laws, CSBA recommendations, and also our current practices that best support the sites and the district as a whole in these procedures. Specifically, regulations 3311.1, 3313.3, and 3313.4 are proposed as new regulations. BPAR 3310.1 and the accompanying exhibit are proposed as deletions due to the presence in other regulations. All the other included DPs and ARs are presented with recommended revisions. Again, these are for first reading only, and they'll be brought back as an action item at the next governing board meeting. Please let us know if there are any questions or recommendations tonight or up until the next board meeting.
More policies.
Thoughts, comments? Nothing? No? Great. Now we move to our action items. Agreement with OpenGov Inc. for pre-qualification bid management software. Mr. Pesce.
Thank you, President Messina, members of the board, Superintendent Coleman. Unfortunately, Ms. Hanson is unavailable to join us this evening. This item, we currently have a pre-qualification and bid management software package in place. Planet Bids, we've been using it for about 3 years now, 2.5. And does not have all of the capacity that our team, the facilities team, the M&O team, and the purchasing team would like it to have. They researched a number of alternative products prior to renewal for the Planet Bids, and we determined that OpenGov Inc. for procurement software, including bid solicitation, contract development, management, supplier engagement, pre-qualification, which we bring to you every quarter for the facilities team, is presented for your approval this evening. They felt this to be the best overall software package to accomplish what they needed to do, as well as will provide us capacity to expand our support into other departments within the district. This software is more relevant for the district overall versus confined to a couple of departments. So it will actually help us to track documents over long periods of time, which will reduce the work that people at the schools have to do, gathering insurance policies and things of that nature that are duplicative, triplicative in nature. So resulting in a legal one-stop shop for us.
Ralph, excuse me, you probably answered my question when I was looking through some of this stuff, but we've reached a point where it's necessary to push forward with this. I mean, we can't hold off for another year or 2 years.
This is replacing.
We have a system in place.
Yeah, this is replacing that, right?
We'll be switching something.
But the one I understand that you have one in place, but that one in place is not functioning appropriately now. point where it's like,
Well, what I would say is that the functionality of the software, and these are all cloud-based systems, so we didn't, it's not physically on our computer or server here. The structure of the software package for pledge bids didn't quite meet the needs that they thought it would.
and so it's definitely time. You're comfortable.
And it's time, yeah. Instead of renewing, I would rather move, and this was their proposal of both departments.
Okay.
They feel that this is the tool they need.
You're comfortable with it? Okay. I'll make a motion.
I have a
Well,
question.
I have a
Sorry.
question as well, sorry.
Oh, no.
Dr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Peschik. Can you tell me again what the current system is and how much we are paying annually for the current system?
It is called Planet Bids. And let's see. I don't know that number off the top of my head, Dr. Moore. Sorry, I thought I had that written down.
Okay, I'd like to know that, and I'd also wanted to know, because I'm looking up this company, and it says state and local governments, and what they prepared, 1,100 state and local governments are using this. And I wanted to know how many school districts that includes. And I wanted to know if we have to act on this tonight.
We can bring it back another time.
Okay, and I apologize, I didn't get to ask you these questions ahead of time.
No, it's okay. I mean, Ms. Hanson wasn't able to join us this evening, so.
Well, if it's being brought back, we're going to table it, I can.
Well, you have questions?
Well, my question was, Mr. Peschik, who would be utilizing this software, and what, in terms of training, and then also, does this, we don't want to add work to certain, individuals who want to hopefully streamline it. So that was where my question was based.
So in regards to the streamline part, after their review, they felt that this system, because it is more comprehensive and allows for more functionality, would better meet their needs and hopefully reduce some of the manual work that they're having to do. Also reduce the continuity or increase the continuity. So if somebody's doing, once it were expanded out and made available for other departments, potentially ASPs, that it would help them streamline their contract processes. And because we can retain more information long-term in the system, it will reduce the multiple click. If Gold Valley did it and then West Ranch had to do it and facilities had to do all of the same vendor, we don't want collecting duplicate information.
When you refer to the printout, who
And
were
currently, to answer the first part of your question, my apology, it's currently facilities M&O and purchasing are the primary users, with a hope that this will expand out and become a better support system and resource for other departments and school sites, specifically ASP.
Okay, thank you.
So we're good we're okay to delay it.
We can, if it's the board's pleasure, we can get those questions back to you.
Can you do a memo?
Excuse me?
Can you just give us a memo?
Sure.
Thank you. That would help.
So the consensus is we bring it back.
Okay. No problem.
Item B, Mr. Otofka.
Yes.
Mike, every time I see you, I see dollar signs, my friend.
Like I say, it's the only way to do my job. Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board. This is the award of bid for the La Mesa Junior High School 2 shade structures and outdoor lighting project. So this is installing 2 large shade structures on that campus. If you're familiar with the campus, it's right off the quad, on either side of the quad. It'll be a nice addition to that school. On November 18th, the district received and opened bids for the La Mesa Junior High School two-shade structures and outdoor lighting project. The contractors submitting proposals in their respective bids are attached to the board item. This is a single contractor bid for the entire scope of work. Staff recommends awarding this project to the lowest responsible bidder, Hart Design Build Incorporated.
Move to award bid package number LM2211A for the La Mesa Junior High School two shade structures and outdoor lighting project to the lowest responsible bidder, Hart Design Build.
Second. I have a question.
Oh.
A couple questions. This is not related, it's just a little attempt at joke here after 10 o'clock. It's not related to Hart High School, right? It's Hart Design, H-A-R-T.
Right, I don't know what the name comes from. It's not related to Hart High School, though.
And it looks like these guys were well below all the others.
Well, it looks like the second low bidder was $6,200 higher than them. We know this builder. This builder used to be part of another contract with, we worked with Chalmers, so we know the builder.
They were well below, I mean, the second one was pretty close, but
Yeah.
go on and on, it gets higher and higher.
Yeah, we had a lot of bidders too.
Yeah. So it looks like it's a pretty good
Yeah.
financial package.
Yeah, this is about right. This is what we would have thought it would be. Yeah.
Motion on the floor.
Any more questions or comments? No? All right, so moved by, I forgot.
I moved.
Okay, moved by Dr. Ford, second by Mr. Bell. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye.
Thank you.
That motion carries.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Well, that was easy. Dr. Beer, the next one's yours as well.
Yeah, thank you. At the November 16th governing board meeting, board policy 5116.1, interdistrict open enrollment, board policy administrative regulation 5141.21, administering medication and monitoring health, bylaw 3220, meetings and notices, and bylaw 9322, agenda meeting materials presented for revision. We did not receive any additional suggestions, therefore, tonight it's recommended that the board approve the changes as presented.
Move to approve BP 5116.1, interdistrict open enrollment, BP 5141.21,
Second.
administering medication and monitoring health conditions, BP 9320, meetings and notices, and BP 9322, agenda meeting materials.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Jensen, second by Mrs. Storley, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Student board member?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye.
Took a breath there. That might
No, I have 2 ears, but I can't listen to 2 things at once. All right, D, governing board organizational meeting.
Yes. So the annual organizational meeting of the governing board must occur within a specified period in the month of December. The organizational meeting is calendared for December 14th. That's a week from today, at 7 p.m. on the 2022-23 board meeting schedule. It was approved last spring, so we have to take action. Just to let everybody know, should the board take action on this, at this meeting, we would have a 6:30 meet and greet to welcome the families and friends of those who recently were re-elected to be part of our governing board. And the evening would start at 7 o'clock, where we will have individuals swearing in of 3 separate board members.
So moved.
Go to separate rooms.
You can all do
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Storley, second by Mr. Jensen, all in favor?
Aye.
Student board member?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye.
Will we, just a point of information, will we have an executive board meeting that day?
In other words, will we have a closed session?
Yes,
No closed session.
no
No
closed
closed
session.
session.
So then I have a question. Dr. Moore brought up something during the executive board meeting about us reviewing something at a later time.
All right, you need to bring that around, I have for future consideration.
Okay, I was just saying, if we don't have one, we'll walk next year. Okay,
We're doing photos that night too.
yes.
Correct. 6 o'clock notice. So thank you for verification.
All right. Consent calendar. Once the board member has a question concerning a particular item and asks that it be withdrawn from the consent calendar, the governing board approves all items at one time. Any questions, comments, or does anybody want to move forward?
Move the consent calendar.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Storley, seconded by Mr. Webb. All in favor?
Aye.
Student board member?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Okay. Items for future consideration, and we do have one speaker, Sandra Rivera.
Hello again. I do want to mention, I appreciate that you guys, and wanted to acknowledge that you guys did mention about 12-year-olds and even older, because high schoolers making a decision to bring a flag onto the field is something that they shouldn't really be making on their own. Yet it's out there that a 12-year-old can make a decision, a medical decision. So we have to, I think as board members and people that are a part of the school should understand that there's one has a higher and more severe consequence than the other. So I'd like for you guys to continue to remember that children are children. It was brought up last time, but I didn't hear about it this time, so I just wanted to remind you guys again that when the school season starts again, there are some parents that can't stay here this late, and I would appreciate if maybe we could do what they do at city council, maybe have a certain amount of speakers at the beginning, and then those that can stay again later on, have like 2 sections for public speaking, if you guys can do that. Thank you.
I'd also like to add whatever we need to add that except the medication agreement.
Yes.
Okay, so let's make sure we put that on there as well. Any others? Ms. Storley, you wanted to adjourn for a short reason, you said earlier?
Yes, I think not, but.
Well, Lindsay and I were both talking about it, so it's a joint adjournment in memory of those who served, fought for our country during World War II, and specifically were at Pearl Harbor, December 7th, that time period. Many of us had family with their life in particular, so we'd like to jointly ask them to close the memory of those that fought and served our country, specifically Pearl Harbor.
Sorry, I just didn't know we were gonna talk about future, I still have the SCBI item
What?
for discussion for future.
Okay, for future consideration, right?
Thank you.
Dr. Moore, just to clarify, happy to do that. Would it be your preference be in the form of a memo? It's fine.
It's fine.
Okay.
Okay. So, we, no, but who?
No, I
moved
did.
for the adjournment?
I'm
You
in
did?
me. I
Okay.
did it.
Mrs. Storley, moved, Jensen second is all in favor?
Aye.
Student board member?
Aye.
And chair votes aye, and we're done.